Chapter 286. Ling Han obviously wouldn't take it to heart. A dignified high-level black-grade alchemist came to the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. Would he be afraid of anyone? Chang Kai-fu saw Ling Han at a glance, and instantly, old and new hatred rose in his heart. He wanted to reach out and point at Ling Han, but his right arm had just been reattached, so how could he raise it? The pain made him frown, and he could only raise his left hand to point at Ling Han. How dare you, this young master was just about to find you, and you delivered yourself to me. Ling Han frowned and said, "Take your hand away, I hate it when others point at me." "Ha ha ha, you're about to lose your life, so why are you still worried about other things?" Chang Kai-fu snorted and snapped his fingers. The dozen or so people from the Star Defense Force instantly surrounded Ling Han. Zhu Hexen was instantly enraged, and took a step forward saying, "What do you want to do?" Low-level black-grade alchemist. Chang Kai-fu saw the silver badge on Zhu Hexen's chest, and revealed a look of realization. "No wonder you dare to oppose this young master, so you have a low-level black-grade alchemist to back you up. Hey, but do you know who this young master is?" Ling Han patted Zhu Hexen's shoulder lightly, indicating to let him come, and said with a smile, "I really don't know who you are." "Humph, you broke one of this young master's arms. So what if you're a low-level black-grade alchemist? This young master will definitely kill you," Chang Kai-fu said harshly. He'd never suffered such great humiliation. Not only was his life threatened, he even lost an arm. Fortunately, he had countless high-level medicinal pills that reattached his severed arm, or else he'd hate Ling Han to the point of exterminating his entire clan. "Kill these two for me, kill them both." He pointed at Ling Han and Zhu Hexen, and when he saw Hunyo on Ling Han's back, he immediately said, "And this damn girl, young Master Fu?" The people from the Star Defense Force were somewhat hesitant. After all, there was a low-level black-grade alchemist, and they didn't dare to be rash. My brother is a black-grade high-level alchemist, what is there to be afraid of?" Chang Kai-fu said proudly. Ling Han and Zhu Hexen both came to a sudden realization. No wonder this guy dared to be so arrogant, so it turned out that he had an elder brother who was a black-grade high-level alchemist. In the 9 nations of the desolate north, a black-grade high-level alchemist could be called a big shot, and was indeed very awesome. But the only one who was awesome was his brother, not him. Judging from his age, his brother should be around 30 years old. He does have some talent, Ling Han said to Zhu Hexen. Although alchemy was similar to martial art in that the earlier one was, the faster one's progress would be, a black-grade high-level alchemist in his 30s was still extremely shocking. Zhu Hexen thought for a moment, then said, "Could the one with the surname Chung be Chung Fei Jun? He is indeed a genius of alchemy. From what I know, he became a black-grade low-level alchemist 7 years ago. At that time he was only 23, and 2 years ago, he took another step forward and became a black-grade middle-level alchemist. Although it was publicly acknowledged that he would definitely become a black-grade high-level alchemist, advancing in just 2 years is truly unexpected. A 30-year-old black-grade high-level alchemist, too shocking." He sighed, then glanced at Ling Han and couldn't help but laugh. In comparison, this guy was even more freakish. Ling Han immediately had a guess and said, "It should be that Chung Fei Jun's luck is nature-defying, and he fused with a strange fire. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to become a black-grade middle-level alchemist in 5 years, and then leap to high-level in 2 years. Young Master Han is right." Zhu Hexen nodded in agreement. "You guys." Chang Kai-fu stomped his feet in anger. These two actually minded their own business and talked, completely disregarding him, too infuriating. Kill them, kill them." Seeing that the people of the Star Defense Force were ready to make a move, Ling Han smiled and said, "I say, who the hell are you to command the Star Defense Force? Are you a black-grade low-level alchemist or a high-level alchemist?" "Old Zhu, you're a genuine black-grade low-level alchemist. These Star Defense Force should listen to you, right?" Zhu Hexen said, "I'm Zhu Hexen, I order you guys immediately retreat." He was still quite dignified, and under his angry gaze and reprimand, everyone in the Star Defense Force involuntarily took a few steps back. After all, the money for their meals was given by the alchemist, so they couldn't turn around and bite the owner, right? What's there to be proud of? My brother is Chung Fei Jun. When he sees my brother, he has to step aside and obediently call him master. Chang Kai-fu was not the slightest afraid, and pointed with his finger saying, "Kill them, I'll bear all the consequences." Under his stern urging, the people of the Star Defense Force once again took a step forward, ready to attack. Ling Han shook his head and said, "I originally wanted to give you a chance, but since you don't know how to cherish it, then I can only kill you." He sighed. Actually, he wanted to kill this young thug earlier, but he showed mercy because of the farmer's bitter pleas, because he didn't want them to be implicated. But now that Chang Kai-fu wanted to seek his own death, he wouldn't be lenient. "Kill, kill, kill," Chang Kai-fu said sternly. The dozen or so people of the Star Defense Force finally attacked, attacking Ling Han and Zhu He Xian. However, Zhu He Xian still held the title of a black-grade low-level alchemist after all, so the Star Defense Force vented most of their attacks on Ling Han. Hunyo never saw her attack, so who would take a little girl seriously? But they were obviously wrong. Seeing that they actually dared to attack Ling Han, Hunyo's ferocity instantly erupted. She pounced out, turning into a stream of light. Pa 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 pa, she waved her claws continuously, bringing forth streaks of blood light. Screams rang out, and the Star Defense Force fell to the ground one by one, all heavily injured by Hunyo. Fortunately, the little girl's ferocity was still the same, but her murderous nature was greatly reduced. She only dealt heavy blows but didn't kill, so all the members of the Star Defense Force were still alive. What? Chang Kai-fu's face was full of shock and disbelief. He knew that Hunyo was a bit strong, but to the extent that she could fight 1 against 10 was still greatly beyond his expectations. He hurriedly broke into a run. Behind him was the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, and there were many experts overseeing inside. Casually inviting a few would be enough to suppress everything. Usually, he couldn't command these people, but now that Ling Han fought his way to the entrance of the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, how could these experts just watch idly? However, the moment he moved, someone already blocked him in front. "Ling Han, people like you living in this world will only waste food, better die." Ling Han's killing intent boiled. Young man, don't be too angry, let's talk nicely," a friendly voice called out, and a fat ball-like middle-aged man also walked out from the main hall. His height was actually about the same. "Captain Meng, quickly help me kill him," Chang Kai-fu hurriedly shouted. "Meng Mao Kai." Zhu He Xian swept a glance and interrupted. "This boy isn't a member of the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. Since when can he command the Star Defense Force?" "Master Zhu." The fatty nodded slightly at Zhu He Xian, then smiled bitterly. "He's Master Cheng's younger brother. Even I have to give him face. However, I have to give Master Zhu face too. How about this, everyone put down their weapons and sit down to talk. Harmony breeds wealth, after all." Chapter 287. A Beautiful Romance. This white-clothed woman was like an immortal. Every step she took was graceful and graceful. She was dignified and quiet, but her figure was really too moving. Her thighs were long and slender, enough to reach the waist of an expert of the same height. The longer a woman's legs were, the more attractive her figure would be. On her body it was simply perfect. Just the way she walked would give rise to endless fantasies. Her willowy waist was slender, but her buttocks were protruding high, revealing astonishing curves. She exuded a sexy charm, but she wasn't too great. Her neck was like jade and she was as noble as a swan. Her black hair was like a waterfall, tied up by a snow-white ribbon. She didn't have a single ornament on her body, but it gave others the feeling that this was the most perfect. That was because any ornament on her body would only make her appear tacky. Ling Han was surprised. True enough, this woman didn't need to reveal a shred of her appearance, and she could give others the feeling that she was as beautiful as a goddess. The only second woman that he had felt this way on was the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden. However, he had seen the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden's appearance, and she was indeed a match for that perfect figure of hers. In terms of appearance alone, the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden was indeed the most beautiful in the world. In fact, she was so beautiful that she shouldn't appear in the mortal world. However, Ling Han sighed. Why was this woman so violent? She would occasionally come to his place and randomly take things, and when he tried to reason with her, he would be threatened with her gaze. Moreover, his 4 disciples had also been thrashed by her in turn. In terms of reverence, Ling Han could pat his chest and say that his 4 disciples were definitely more obedient to the heavenly phoenix divine maiden's words. Your mouth says that you don't want to, but your eyes are quite honest. You know that Fairy Zhu is a peerless beauty, right? Gong Lishan's voice rang out by Ling Han's ear, rousing him from his memories. Ling Han only smiled and didn't explain himself. In his mind, he was still thinking that if his strength surpassed the heavenly phoenix divine maidens, then marrying such a wife wouldn't be too bad. She'd be pleasing to the eyes. However, strength was a guarantee. Otherwise, he would be suppressed by the other party. Who knew when they were having sex at night, he would also be the one lying on the bed. Once Zhu Xian'er arrived, she immediately became the center of attention. She was like a natural goddess, and anyone in front of her would pale in comparison. Moreover, her elegant demeanor was too moving. So much so that others couldn't even feel jealous. No matter if they were male or female, they all looked at her with fanatical gazes, as if they would be willing to go through fire and water for her with a single command from her. Ling Han was secretly surprised. This was too crazy, wasn't it? He definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Xian'er is very happy to be able to see all of you young prodigies today. Here's a toast to everyone. Zhu Xian'er raised her wine cup, and instantly, everyone looked overwhelmed by the unexpected favor, and hurriedly raised their wine cups as well. As Zhu Xian'er lifted up a corner of her white veil, revealing her snow-white chin and crimson lips, it was as if everyone had been injected with chicken blood. Some people even spat out blood from their noses, and some people were so excited that they fainted. Everyone drained the wine in their cups in one gulp. They felt that to be able to receive a toast from Zhu Xian'er, even if they died in this life, it would be completely worth it. Ling Han's heart also fluttered slightly. Although Zhu Xian'er's face was not completely revealed, merely her chin, her small mouth, and that absolutely beautiful proportions were enough to form a picture of a beautiful woman in one's mind. Just this corner alone was enough for Ling Han to confirm that Zhu Xian'er's beauty was far above that of Lu Yutong and the other girls, and was even qualified to compete with the heavenly phoenix divine maiden. However, if she wanted to move Ling Han's heart, that was something impossible. It couldn't be helped. Who asked him to see the heavenly phoenix divine maiden every few days in his last life? Moreover, she did things that made him extremely depressed, so he couldn't like her even if he wanted to. With this kind of inoculation, so what if Zhu Xian'er was the second heavenly phoenix divine maiden? Zhu Xian'er offered a toast and put down the white veil. Instantly, everyone felt a strong reluctance to part with her, feeling a sense of loss as if someone had gouged out their hearts, causing them to lose the thing they loved the most. She opened her mouth and said, Xian'er wants to purchase a medicinal ingredient from everyone. If you don't have it, then it's fine if you have information on the whereabouts of the medicinal ingredient. Xian'er will reward you handsomely. Fairy Zhu, feel free to speak. Right, to be able to serve Fairy Zhu, that would be our honor. Going through water and treading on fire. 10,000 deaths without hesitation. Everyone called out one after another, and even quite a few girls' faces were filled with fanaticism. Zhu Xian'er's pretty face did not show any expression, and she said, the ingredient Xian'er wants is a 7th-level medicinal herb called Crimson Red Chilling Ice Grass. Crimson Red Chilling Ice Grass? What's that? Never heard of it. Quite a few people immediately shook their heads, but Ling Han was startled, because Crimson Red Chilling Ice Grass was precisely one of the 2 main ingredients he needed. He never thought that he would actually come into conflict with Zhu Xian'er. If the 2 of them competed, it could be imagined that there would definitely be countless people who would hate him. Who cared? So what if she was an exquisite beauty? She couldn't even compare to a single hair of his old man. Fairy Zhu, I know where the Crimson Red Chilling Ice Grass is. A youngster stood up very excitedly. Without needing to be urged, he had already spilled the beans. 3 months ago, I just came out of the Dark Demon Forest, and heard someone mention the Crimson Red Chilling Ice Grass. That should be in the depths of the Dark Demon Forest. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a cold breath. The Dark Demon Forest was one of the more famous danger zones in the North region. There were flower blossom tier beasts in the depths of the forest, and normally, no one dared to enter deep into the forest. Fairy Zhu, the Dark Demon Forest is too dangerous, why don't you wait 2 years before going? Nonsense, Fairy Zhu needs the Crimson Red Chilling Ice Grass to save someone. Can she afford to wait 2 years? Then do you want Fairy Zhu to enter the depths of the dark demon forest and risk her life? That's losing her life. That's right, in another 2 years, maybe Fairy Zhu can advance into the flower blossom tier. And by then there'll be no need to fear. Ling Han, however, felt a rush of eagerness. There was actually crimson-red chilling ice grass in the dark demon forest, and he received orders to pick 7 stalks of fiery sungrass. Originally, he had no intention of paying attention to it, but now it was as if there was an invisible hand pushing him. Come, he had to go to the dark demon forest. Zhu Xianer was a bit worried at first. That person publicly revealed the whereabouts of the crimson-red chilling ice grass, which might cause trouble. But thinking again, how many people dared to enter the dark demon forest? She thanked that person and promised that if he encountered any trouble in the future, he could go to the half-moon sect to find her. Because she was in a hurry to find the crimson-red chilling ice grass, she soon bid farewell and left. Once she left, the atmosphere at the scene instantly plummeted. Everyone was in no mood, and many people also exchanged for the treasures they fancied, so they bid farewell and left one after another. Ling Han was also very satisfied. On this trip, he not only obtained the gold silk thousand spark fruit, but also news of the crimson-red chilling ice grass. When he returned, he would refine the gold silk thousand spark fruit. Oh. Chapter 288. Martial art and alchemy were the same. They both needed a long time to increase their tier and rush to the peak. In fact, alchemy couldn't be achieved quickly. This was because there were spiritual medicines and spiritual fruits in this world. Eating a single one of them would allow one's cultivation to skyrocket, allowing one to become an expert overnight. However, there was definitely no such good item that could allow an alchemist's skills to increase greatly in just a few short days. Even with the existence of strange fire, it only allowed alchemists to refine high-tier medicinal pills at low tiers. It still required sufficient understanding of alchemy, and it wasn't something that could allow alchemists to soar in a single step. Ling Han wasn't even 20 yet and was already a black-grade medium-level alchemist. It had to be a joke. If there was such a genius, wouldn't the news have spread throughout the world long ago? How could it be unheard of? Humph, I was almost fooled by you, actually daring to pretend to be an alchemist. How dare you? Cheng Feijun said darkly. His younger brother was captured and even had an arm cut off, making him extremely furious. Ling Han smiled faintly, pointed at his chest and said, "Open your dog eyes wide and look carefully, this is fake." Dog eyes. Everyone's mouths twitched. He actually dared to speak like that to a black-grade high-level alchemist. This brat was truly audacious. "Youngster, take out your alchemist proof," the spiritual pedestal tier elite said to Ling Han. Badges could be forged, but alchemist proof couldn't. There was complete information on it, and it could be verified immediately. Cheng Feijun sneered and said, "So what if you're a black-grade medium-level alchemist? You still have to listen to my orders." Tisk. Ling Han wagged his finger and said, "Which ear of yours heard me say that I'm a black-grade medium-level alchemist? You really are an idiot." Ignoring the furious Cheng Feijun, he took out the 3rd silver badge and wore it on his chest. 3 silver badges, the same as Cheng Feijun? Impossible. Everyone said the same word in their hearts. There definitely never was such a young black-grade high-level alchemist. Huh? Cheng Feijun sneered. As soon as Ling Han took out the 2nd silver badge, he already didn't believe it. Huh? Qian and Yang, the 2 spiritual pedestal tier elites, were slightly startled as they suddenly thought of a person. Bullshit, do you think that just because you wear 3 silver badges you can pretend to be a black-grade high-level alchemist? The person who had bootlicked Cheng Feijun immediately jumped out again, pointing at Ling Han as he shouted. Ling Han sighed and said, "Haven't I told you before that I hate it when people point at me? Young man, is your surname Ling?" The spiritual pedestal tier elite with the surname Qian suddenly interrupted. Ling Han. Cheng Feijun's expression immediately changed. He also thought of a person. "Ling Han, you are Ling Han." His face was full of anger. Half a year ago, he successfully advanced to become a black-grade high-level alchemist, creating a new record in the desolate north. And a 30-year-old black-grade high-level alchemist, even in a large place like the North region, was quite impressive. There were very few people who could surpass him, but his complacency only lasted for a few months. Very soon, another young genius appeared out of nowhere and became a black-grade high-level alchemist. Moreover, he was even younger than him, so much so that he could not believe his own eyes. 17 years old. In the beginning, not to mention him, even many people in the Star Brilliance Palace Hall doubted the authenticity of this matter. But with Fu Yuansheng's handwritten letter and the joint guarantee of many black-grade middle-level alchemists, people could only believe it. From then on, Cheng Feijun hated Ling Han for robbing him of his glory. Otherwise, how dazzling would he be with the glory of being the youngest black-grade high-level alchemist? This hateful guy, robbing him of his glory was not bad, but today he ran to his territory, injured his younger brother, and still wanted to step on his face in public? He definitely would not allow it. I am Ling Han. Ling Han took out the crystal that could prove one's identity as an alchemist, and infused his origin power into it. Instantly, a screen of light was formed, and on it was clearly written Ling Han's level as an alchemist, as well as where and when he had broken through, as well as the witnesses at that time. Everyone cried out in shock, because this was only a matter of 1 or 2 months. The majority of people still did not know of Ling Han's existence, and could not help but stare dumbfoundedly at Ling Han. Too young, so young that people could not accept it. A 30-year-old black-grade high-level alchemist like Cheng Feijun would scare people every time they saw him, sighing at his youth. But Ling Han? 17 years old, 18 years old. Heavens! Let go of my younger brother first, Cheng Feijun said through gritted teeth. Ling Han smiled faintly and said, if I let him go just because you say so, how embarrassing would that be for me? Ling Han? Cheng Feijun's eyes spewed fire. What do you want? At this time, Qian and Yang, the two spiritual pedestal tier warriors, sat on the sidelines and watched. No matter if it was Ling Han or Cheng Feijun, they were both black-grade high-level alchemists with the same status and boundless future prospects, so it was not worth offending either one. Ling Han smiled and said, you finally asked the main point. This guy obviously did all kinds of bad things, but I just came, so I don't know how evil he is, nor do I have the time to investigate. However, it is a fact that this guy tried to kill me. And he actually tried to kill an alchemist. That's a capital offense, am I right? Hung, my younger brother doesn't know your identity at all. His crime is pardonable. Cheng Feijun immediately said. If you say it can be forgiven, then it can be forgiven. It's not like you were threatened by this trash. Ling Han sneered. There's no need to trouble the Star Defense Force. This person plotted to kill an alchemist, so I declare immediate execution. You dare, you dare? Cheng Feijun stomped his feet and said sternly, Ling Han, do you want to form a death grudge with me? And who are you? Ling Han sneered, his face full of disdain. You dare insult me? Cheng Feijun stomped in rage, the veins on his neck bulging. I won't lower myself to your level. Quickly let go of my younger brother. Ling Han laughed and said, I found that you have quite the talent for making jokes, but unfortunately, I don't appreciate it at all. His right hand shook and instantly, a long sword appeared out of thin air. With his identity as a black-grade high-level alchemist, he was no longer afraid of others knowing that he had a spatial ring. Brother, save me, save me. Cheng Kai-fu sensed Ling Han's dense killing intent, and instantly waved his arms and cried out in fear. However, his right arm had just been reattached, so how could it withstand such violent movements? His arm was instantly severed at the shoulder, and fresh blood gushed out. Without waiting for him to cry out in pain, Ling Han's sword had already slashed down, slicing open his neck. Cheng Kai-fu's mouth gurgled with blood, and he extended his hand towards Cheng Feijun, but he only raised it halfway before it drooped down powerlessly. Little brother! Cheng Feijun shouted sternly, his eyes spitting fire. Ling Han, I swear to never coexist with you. Ha! Ling Han shrugged indifferently and said, I'll make a bet with you. Later, you have to obediently kneel in front of me and call me Grandmaster Ling. Bullshit. Cheng Feijun immediately spat. How could he possibly kneel in front of the enemy who killed his younger brother and suffer humiliation? How about it, do you want to bet or not? If you win, I'll give you this strange fire, and on the other hand you have to give me that strange fire of yours. Ling Han finally revealed his true motive. Chapter 289. Cheng Feijun was only at the 7th layer of the gushing spring tier. Logically, he could only refine black-grade middle-level medicinal pills, but since he could become a high-level black-grade alchemist, it meant that he definitely fused with a strange fire to achieve a breakthrough. Although Ling Han had a ball of strange fire, he didn't mind making this strange fire stronger. Chang Fei-jun's gaze was gloomy, and his face revealed a moved expression. Ling Han could guess that he had a strange fire, so he obviously could guess as well because Ling Han's tier was lower, only at the first layer of the gushing spring tier. If Ling Han didn't have this strange fire, would he still have the qualifications to be called a high-level black-grade alchemist? At that time he only had to request a re-examination, and Ling Han couldn't refine a high-level black-grade medicinal pill, naturally being stripped of the corresponding alchemist rank. As long as the alchemist's rank was lower than his, he could think of a way to slowly kill Ling Han. The hatred of killing his brother was absolutely irreconcilable, and he had to make Ling Han die. Alright, I'll bet. He clenched his teeth, not believing that something that could make him kneel down would happen. There was only one possibility, and that was Ling Han advancing to become an earth-grade alchemist. The question was this possible? Lords, please be the witnesses, Chang Fei-jun said again. He was afraid that Ling Han would act shamelessly if he lost. Ha ha ha, I'm also afraid you'll act shamelessly, go invite them. Ling Han laughed loudly. Seeing that Ling Han was so certain, Chang Fei-jun couldn't help but be startled. Could it be that this guy could really advance to become an earth-grade alchemist? Impossible, definitely impossible. A 17-year-old earth-grade alchemist, he must be dreaming. Moreover, the most important point was that alchemists who wanted to be certified as black-grade and above had to prepare their own materials, and earth-grade materials were extremely precious. He did not believe that Ling Han had prepared the materials, because this was obviously an unexpected incident. So, even if Ling Han really had the ability to break through to become an earth-grade alchemist, what could he do without the corresponding materials? Thinking this way, Chang Fei-jun recovered his confidence, and hurriedly had the spiritual pedestal tier elite surnamed Qian invite a few earth-grade alchemists to act as witnesses. Originally, a wager between two black-grade high-level alchemists could not possibly alarm an earth-grade alchemist, but who asked these two people to be too young, their futures boundless, and it was almost certain that they would become earth-grade alchemists in the future? Thus, the earth-grade alchemists were happy to give face and join in the fun. There were a total of 3 earth-grade alchemists in the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, but they were all low-level earth-grade, middle-level, and high-level earth-grade alchemists couldn't possibly appear in such a small place like the 9 nations of the desolate north, and there wasn't a single heaven-grade alchemist in the entire north region. These 3 earth-grade alchemists were respectively Long Yongchang, Li Siyuan, and Yun Xingxian. Their cultivation was all in the spiritual pedestal tier, and the youngest one was already over 60 years old, but he was still called a genius of alchemy because he completed the step of earth-grade alchemist at the age of 50, which was very difficult. Unfortunately, if one did not break through to the flower blossom tier, their lifespan would be limited, and they might not have any hope of becoming an earth-grade mid-level alchemist in this lifetime. Greetings to the 3 lords. When these 3 people appeared, everyone bowed in greeting, and even Chang Fei-jun was no exception. In the world of alchemy, if they were all of yellow grade, black grade, earth grade, or heaven grade, then low-level alchemists only needed to cup their fists in greeting when meeting high-level alchemists. However, if there was a big gap, then even if a black-grade high-level alchemist met a low-level earth-grade alchemist, they needed to kneel in greeting. This was the basic etiquette for alchemists. The arrogant and conceited Chang Fei-jun, before breaking through to earth-grade, had to be respectful in front of the 3 great alchemists. Only Ling Han didn't move. When Chang Fei-jun saw this, he instantly snorted coldly and said, "Ling Han, you're quite daring to not greet the 3 great alchemists." Long Yongchang and the other 2 were originally a bit displeased, thinking that Ling Han was young and proud. Wasn't he a bit too arrogant? When they heard Chang Fei-jun's words, they naturally disliked Ling Han even more, and their expressions instantly darkened. Ling Han looked at Chang Fei-jun disdainfully and said, "Who do you think you are? What does it matter to you whether I greet you or not? Since you're so well behaved, very good. Pay your respects to me properly later." He paused, clasped his hands in greeting towards Long Yongchang and the other 2, and said, "Brothers, I want to be certified as an earth-grade alchemist. A single stone raises 1,000 ripples." Although everyone knew that the only way for Ling Han to make Chang Fei-jun kneel and win the bet was to become an earth-grade alchemist, Hearing a 17-year-old youngster say he wanted to be certified as an earth-grade alchemist with their own ears still made everyone's scalp tingle. He really was a monster. Zhu Hexian was naturally full of confidence. Ling Han concocted a pseudo-earth-grade foundation building pill when he was in the poly tier. And now that he advanced into the gushing spring tier, concocting a true earth-grade medicinal pill definitely wouldn't be difficult. After all, when Ling Han concocted the foundation building pill, it was extremely easy. And not only was the success rate high, the grade of the completed pill reached 13 stars. This was something only an earth-grade alchemist, or even a middle-level earth-grade alchemist could do. Needless to say, Hunyo continuously bared her teeth at the people around her, looking furious. These guys actually dared to stare at Nyo's Ling Han with hatred too hateful. The 3 earth-grade alchemists were all shocked. Certifying as an earth-grade alchemist, a 17-year-old youngster, they all felt as if they had instantly aged. They had no choice but to be convinced. They already knew Ling Han was young, but seeing it with their own eyes still shocked them. This youngster's childishness hadn't even faded, and his body hadn't fully matured. But he was already a high-level black-grade alchemist, just one step away from becoming a true big boss of alchemy. They didn't expect that this brat actually opened his mouth shockingly, wanting to certify as an earth-grade alchemist. No wonder he bowed to them as equals. Was he certain that he would succeed? However, certifying as a high-level alchemist was every alchemist's basic right, and no one could stop it. Thus, after the 3 great alchemists discussed among themselves, Long Yongchang said, "I'm not approved, but you have to prepare your own materials." To certify as an earth-grade alchemist, the materials had to be prepared by oneself, or else who would bear the loss if the furnace exploded? "I'm prepared." Ling Han smiled. This wasn't nonsense. If it wasn't his own materials, the refined pill would have to be given to the Star Brilliance Pavilion. At most he'd take some token compensation, but that would be a huge loss. Then let's enter the alchemy room. Li Siyuan nodded. The 3 earth-grade alchemists took the lead, and the others followed behind. A cold smirk appeared at the corner of Cheng Fei Jun's mouth. He didn't believe that Ling Han had prepared enough materials, and even more so didn't believe that he had the qualifications to become an earth-grade alchemist at such a young age. This must be Ling Han's youthful vigor, and he wanted to take a gamble. He wasn't afraid. Very soon they arrived outside an alchemy room. Different from normal alchemy rooms, the 4 walls here were transparent. However, if one walked inside, they wouldn't be able to see the situation outside at all, and wouldn't be afraid of affecting their own alchemy. The cost of building this alchemy room was very high. Firstly, it was used to certify alchemists, and could be witnessed by others, and secondly, it was used for high-level alchemists to appear, cast their arts, and concoct alchemical pills as a demonstration. Ling Han walked into the alchemy room without hesitation. Chapter 290. Hunyo was unwilling to be left to the side, and insisted on following into the pill room. Ling Han didn't mind, and let her follow in. Anyway, if she didn't help concoct pills later, it wouldn't be considered breaking the rules. Quite a few people immediately shook their heads. Concocting pills required concentration, and letting a mischievous little girl in would only have to shout later, and that distraction would definitely cause the furnace to explode. Concocting an earth-grade medicinal pill. If it failed, the loss would make one's heart bleed just thinking about it. However, the person concocting the pill was Ling Han, and he didn't have any objections, so who would ask for trouble? Only Cheng Fei Jun sneered, and his confidence obviously increased a bit. In principle, the time limit for concocting pills is 1 day and 1 night, but it can be relaxed to 2 days, Yun Xingxian said. What medicinal pill do you plan to concoct? 7 turns break crisis pill, Ling Han said, and with a casual fling, a large amount of medicinal ingredients spread out on the ground. Since he specifically came here to be certified as an earth-grade alchemist, he obviously prepared all the ingredients beforehand. However, Rain Country's resources were limited, so he obviously couldn't collect them all. However, he entered Devil Sky Mystery Realm and obtained several spirit medicines, which he transplanted into the Black Tower. After so many days, they almost reached the age to be used as medicine, so Ling Han matched them according to the spirit medicines, looking for supplementary ingredients, and finally decided to concoct 7 turns break crisis pill, which was also the only earth-grade medicinal pill he could concoct with the ingredients he had. 7 turns break crisis pill. The 3 Earth-grade alchemists all exclaimed, "That's a pill that can allow flower blossom tier elites to walk out of the danger of going mad, and can even turn misfortune into fortune, increasing comprehension towards cultivation." The other alchemists obviously heard of it, and nodded incessantly. 7 turns break crisis pill was a true low-level Earth-grade medicinal pill, and its preciousness could be ranked at the top of this tier. This kind of medicinal pill, even Long Yongzhang and the other big shots probably didn't have the ability to concoct it, right? The sneer at the corner of Chang Fei-jun's mouth became even wider. Previously, when he saw that Ling Han actually prepared the materials, he was a bit surprised, but when he heard that Ling Han actually wanted to concoct the 7 turns break crisis pill, he laughed. Is it possible? Even if the 3 alchemy giants here were to refine it, it would be a miracle if they could succeed once out of 10 times. High-grade pills like this were made with a huge amount of raw materials. Who knew how many materials were wasted behind a successful pill? A young man like you dares to say that you want to refine the 7 turns break adversity pill? What's more, there was a little girl in the pill room. She was a restless master. One moment she was in Ling Han's arms, the next moment she was lying on his back, and the next moment she was sitting on his lap. How could she refine pills? Do you really think you're the god of alchemy? Ling Han is really something. Shall we start now? Long Yongzhang asked Ling Han. Let's begin. Ling Han nodded and waved his right hand. The door to the pill room was closed. Long Yongzhang nodded at one of them. Immediately, a huge hourglass appeared and started counting. He began to sort the materials. Ling Han immediately began to move. Shwa 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 like flowing water, he sorted and removed the impurities. That kind of strong rhythm gave people a supreme sense of beauty, causing the alchemists outside to be intoxicated. Heavens, sorting materials can be done like this? I've really lived so many years in vain. That kind of smoothness, even the 3 lords can't do it, right? Shoo! It's completely unbelievable that this is a mere 17-year-old young man. Everyone exclaimed in shock. They were subdued by Ling Han in just a moment. That was natural. When the alchemy emperor made a move, it would be strange if he didn't have such an effect. Even Long Yongzhang and the other 2 couldn't help but move their hands. They secretly decided that even if Ling Han failed to break through to Earth grade, they would still take good care of him. This young man was too miraculous, and they definitely had to have a good spar with him in handling materials. Only Zhu He Xian revealed a proud expression. A bunch of country bumpkins, when you go to young Master Han to extract the medicinal ingredients later, won't you all be so shocked that you'll spit out your tongues? Ling Han very quickly entered the purification stage. Pooh! Instantly, over a dozen people spluttered, and those who didn't were all dumbfounded. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Why did I feel like he purified all 9 materials together? My eyes are playing tricks on me too. It's not my eyes playing tricks on me, it's real. He really purified all 9 materials together. Heavens, why hasn't the medicinal properties been destroyed? Although there's a layer of black crystal wall separating us, I can be 100% sure that there's absolutely no loss of medicinal properties. What a freak! The faces of the 3 big shots of alchemy twitched. If it was said that the previous sorting of medicinal ingredients was only a strong sense of rhythm, then now it really gave them a shock. So, purification could be done like this. They were all Earth-grade alchemists and thought highly of themselves, but now they all felt like they were little schoolchildren who had just stepped onto the path of alchemy, developing a new understanding of these basic movements. Lived so many years in vain. Ling Han didn't care about everyone's astonishment. After purifying all the materials one by one, his left hand shook and hung. The strange fire already came out from the black tower, adhering to his hand and soaring with astonishing flames. The pill concoction officially began. He'd already stepped into the gushing spring tier, and after so many days, he'd already reached the 9th layer of the gushing spring tier. His ability to stimulate and control the temperature of fire naturally increased greatly, and his tolerance towards the temperature of fire also increased greatly. Strange fire. Truly a person blessed by the heavens. Yes, or else no matter how much of a genius you are, under the cultivation limit, the gushing spring tier can at most refine black-grade medium-level medicinal pills. When it came to the strange fire, quite a few people's gazes swept towards Chang Fei-jun. This guy also had a strange fire. which allowed him to refine black-grade high-level medicinal pills at the gushing spring tier, wearing the halo of an alchemy genius. However, if Ling Han succeeded in passing the Earth-grade alchemist test, according to the agreement, Cheng Feijun would have to give the strange fire to Ling Han, and in this way his alchemist level would definitely drop by 1 level. Today, one of these 2 young alchemy grandmasters would definitely fall from his pedestal. The difference was that if Ling Han failed, Cheng Feijun would only stay where he was, but if Ling Han succeeded, then a legend would be created. A 17-year-old Earth-grade alchemist. Just thinking about it made one's scalp numb. After acting coquettishly for a while, seeing that Ling Han ignored her, Hu Niu was instantly unhappy, rubbing her little belly and said, "Niu is hungry." Ling Han nodded, his left hand still concocting pills, while his right hand casually took out the food prepared in the Black Tower. He started a fire, set up a barbecue rack, put a piece of pork on it, and began to roast it. Pew pew pew. Everyone choked, and their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Were you really concocting pills? Why did you start a barbecue as you were concocting? How hungry were you exactly? Chapter 291. Pooh. Ling Han instantly spat out a mouthful of wine. This woman's boldness was a little unbearable. He felt that only Gu Fenghua, that freak, could be a match for her. Seeing Yin Hong even say such words, Zhu Xian'er could not hide her curiosity. She picked up the small piece of meat on the table and slightly lifted the white veil, revealing her exquisite and beautiful red lips. She opened her mouth slightly, revealing her snow-white teeth that looked like they had been carved meticulously. Astonishingly beautiful. She placed the piece of meat into her mouth, then put down the white veil and began to chew lightly. Instantly it made one feel endless pity, wanting to take another look at it. She was not as exaggerated as Yin Hong, but her eyes still revealed an astonished splendor. This kind of delicacy was indeed something she had never seen before in her life, making her feel an urge to taste it again at all costs. However, she was Zhu Xian'er after all. Very soon, she suppressed this urge to the bottom of her heart and once again became indifferent. Compared to enjoyment, she still had an important responsibility. Younger sister Zhu, why don't you just marry young Master Ling? Yin Hong's words were extremely shocking. Young Master Ling is only 17 years old, and is already an Earth-grade low-level alchemist. Going by this speed, he would probably be able to become a Heaven-grade alchemist at around 30 years old. You can just directly find him to concoct alchemical pills for you. Moreover, following him and having such delicious food to eat, this life would be worth it. She laughed mischievously, looked at Ling Han with a bit of flattery, and said, "Young Master Ling, I'll kidnap a wife for you. Can you give me more of this kind of jerky?" These words instantly provoked 2 people, Zhu Xian'er and Hu Niu. Zhu Xian'er was fine. After all, she was an adult and could control herself, though her gaze was a bit cold. However, Hu Niu had a fiery temper, and immediately pounced out from Ling Han's embrace. Xiao, her small figure flashed, and appeared in front of Yin Hong, waving a claw at her chest. Hiss! How could the 2 girls have expected that Hu Niu was actually an elite? She was extremely strange. Even if Ling Han had a sliver of heaven-tier divine sense, he could not see through her at all, let alone the 2 girls. A spiritual ocean-tier elite suddenly launched an attack, and Yin Hong was not the least bit on guard. With a ripping sound, the clothes on her chest were immediately torn apart, but immediately afterward, a white brilliance flashed and formed a light screen, forcibly blocking Hu Niu's small hand. "Niu, stop!" Ling Han hurriedly shouted. Only then did Hu Niu turn around and fall back into Ling Han's embrace. She made a face at Yin Hong, still in a bad mood. The white light on Yin Hong's chest also dispersed. Because her clothes were torn, her snow-white skin could be vaguely seen, but what was surprising was that there were actually lines on her skin, as if they were tattoos. Formation patterns. Ling Han had the experience of heaven tier, and his eyes immediately lit up as he fixed his gaze on them. In his last life, formations had already been lost and declined, and he could only come across them when he explored ancient sites. However, Ling Han could only decipher them, and what he could set up himself was only an early warning formation. However, in ancient times, formations were on par with martial arts and alchemy. Once a grandmaster of formations made a move, They could directly trap and kill tens or even hundreds of martial artists of the same tier, so their power was definitely top-notch. He was very interested in formations, but in his last life all his energy was placed on alchemy, and he had no time to study formations. Secondly, there were no grandmasters of formations that he could ask for guidance, nor were there any secret manuals of formations left behind from ancient times, so how could he learn? He had never thought that he would actually be able to meet a grandmaster of formations now. As expected of the golden age of martial arts where hundreds of flowers bloomed. Not only were there freaks like Ronghuan Xian, Yen Tianzhao, Ma Duo Bao, and Hu Niu, there were also grandmasters of formations that had disappeared long ago. Why are you staring so intently? Do you want me to take off my clothes and let you stare to your heart's content? Ing Hong said through gritted teeth. Although there was a smile at the corners of her lips, there was a dangerous aura exuding from her. Ling Han did not withdraw his gaze. He was completely uninterested in Ing Hong's body, and only wanted the formation patterns on her body. He had seen quite a few formations in his last life, but this was the first time he had seen the formation patterns that were engraved on her body. Formations are indeed not a bad thing, Ling Han said. If you don't mind, then take off your clothes and let me study them properly. Get lost. Ing Hong hurriedly covered her chest and fled into the house. Naturally, she was going to change into new clothes. Zhu Xian'er looked at Hu Niu in great shock. She could not see through Hu Niu, and only thought that she did not cultivate at all. Who would have thought that she would be so greatly mistaken? Not only had she awakened her spirit base, but she was also in the spiritual ocean tier. 5 or 6 years old and in the spiritual ocean tier, what kind of concept was that? In comparison, her cultivation level was not even worth mentioning. The difference was far, far too great. In the world of martial arts, those below the flower blossom tier were all ants, all mortals. Conversely, it could also be said that the first 5 tiers were relatively simple, and it was not strange to see a spiritual pedestal tier cultivator at such a young age, but a spiritual ocean tier cultivator who was only 5 or 6 years old. How could she not be shocked? Hu Niu's senses were astonishing, and she immediately discovered Zhu Xian'er's gaze. She made a face at the latter, appearing to be very hostile. Ling Han smiled and said, Miss Zhu, what do you need the crimson red chilling ice grass for? Zhu Xian'er was slightly surprised and said, so you were also there that day? She paused and continued, I need to concoct a heaven-grade medicinal pill, and the crimson red chilling ice grass is one of the supplementary ingredients. The crimson red chilling ice grass could only be used as a supplementary ingredient? Who asked it to be a heaven-grade medicinal pill? Ling Han felt it was strange and said, I heard that your master has gone mad, but I think that a medium-level earth grade or at most high level should be able to cure it. There's no need for heaven grade. If it were anyone else who said this, Zhu Xian'er would definitely ignore it. However, Ling Han was an earth grade low-level alchemist, and in terms of real status he was far above her. Even the sect master of the half-moon sect would give Ling Han some face when he saw him. She said, my master has suffered a Dao injury, and can't be cured unless it's a heaven-grade medicinal pill. Ling Han was even more puzzled and said, your master is at most in the spiritual infant tier, so how could he have suffered a Dao injury? Dao injury, also known as the injury of great Dao, was a backlash suffered when trying to analyze the power of heaven and earth. Only shattering void tier cultivators had the right to analyze the power of heaven and earth, so naturally, only shattering void tier cultivators could suffer a Dao injury. In addition, shattering void tier cultivators could use the power of heaven and earth, and those who were injured by them would also suffer a Dao injury. The problem was if a shattering void tier cultivator made a move, with the strength of a spiritual infant tier cultivator, would he only suffer a minor injury? He would have long since died a few hundred times. Zhu Xian'er shook her head, and did not answer. Obviously, this matter involved a secret, and they were only acquaintances, so how could she easily reveal the truth? Ling Han did not pursue the matter, but it was obvious that he and Zhu Xian'er would have to compete for that crimson red chilling ice grass. Sorry, I also need the crimson red chilling ice grass, he said. Zhu Xian'er immediately revealed a strong hostility. This was her master's life-saving medicine. Moreover, the reason she agreed to fight for Ing Hong was because the latter promised to help her find other main ingredients, and go to the middle state to ask for a heaven-grade alchemist to help her concoct the alchemical pill. Chapter 292. Oh! What was called stunning everyone? This was it. When everyone looked at Ling Han again, their gazes were fanatical. Even the 3 alchemy bigwigs were no exception. They put the 7 turns break crisis pill back into the jade bottle, and respectfully returned it to Ling Han, as if he was a god. This was definitely the future king of alchemy, worthy of all alchemists' worship. Ling Han smiled faintly and said, I'm an earth-grade alchemist now, right? Yes, you must be. Yong Longzhong and the other bigwigs all nodded repeatedly. Not only was he an earth-grade alchemist, he could even immediately become a mid- or high-level earth-grade alchemist, so awesome that he'd become muddle-headed. Ling Han looked at Cheng Fei-jun, whose face was already pale, and said with a smile, Little Cheng, greet this master. Cheng Fei-jun bit his lip until it was about to bleed. Now that even the 3 earth-grade alchemists acknowledged Ling Han's identity, how could he act shamelessly in front of everyone's eyes? But Ling Han just killed his brother. How could he kneel to Ling Han? If he knelt, his life would be over. Humph, you still haven't gotten the alchemist's proof. Just say you're an earth-grade alchemist. He still acted shamelessly as expected. Yong Longzhong immediately revealed a displeased expression, and said, Cheng Fei-jun, Master Ling just refined the 7 turns break crisis pill. Didn't you see it with your own eyes? Also, the 3 of us can prove it. Yet you're still doubting Master Ling's identity. What's the meaning of this? Cheng Fei-jun clenched his teeth and said, in any case, unless he can take out the proof of an earth-grade alchemist, I definitely won't believe it. The Star Brilliance Palace Hall here didn't have the right to issue proof of an earth-grade alchemist. It had to be reported to the North Region's Alchemist Society headquarters first, and only after a series of steps could the proof of an alchemist be issued. Going through these processes would take at least a month's time. Cheng Fei-jun used this to his advantage, refusing to admit defeat no matter what. Ling Han smiled faintly and said, You won't shed a tear until you see your coffin? Daring to act shamelessly and barge into his territory, wasn't this seeking death? He strode towards Cheng Fei-jun. What, you still want to fight me? Cheng Fei-jun sneered. His alchemy ability was indeed inferior to Ling Han's, but in terms of battle prowess, he wasn't afraid at all. He was in the 7th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. Ling Han reached out and grabbed at Cheng Fei-jun. Impudent. Cheng Fei-jun snorted and raised his hand to counterattack. How could a mere martial artist in the 7th layer of the Gushing Spring tier be a match for Ling Han? He had only just raised his hand when it was suppressed by Ling Han. He could not help but widen his eyes, revealing an expression of disbelief. Acting shamelessly in front of me? Where do you get your confidence from? Ling Han greeted him with a series of punches, causing Cheng Fei-jun to scream in pain. Everyone looked at each other, and no one dared to intervene. Ling Han was an earth-grade alchemist, and it was very likely that he would surpass Long Yongchang and the others, becoming an earth-grade mid-level or even high-level alchemist. Who would be willing to offend him? Moreover, Cheng Fei-jun's gambling behavior was indeed bad. He clearly lost completely, yet still stubbornly resisted, completely asking for a beating. After beating Cheng Fei-jun like a dead dog, Ling Han carried him, smiled at everyone and said, I still have a score to settle with him. I'll be right back. Everyone thought that Ling Han was going to beat Cheng Fei-jun to his heart's content, and hurriedly nodded. Daring to go against a great alchemist, he deserved it. Ling Han carried the unconscious Cheng Fei-jun to an alchemy room. The walls here weren't transparent, and his figure immediately flashed, bringing Cheng Fei-jun into the Black Tower. In this space he was a godlike existence, and stripping away Cheng Fei-jun's strange fire was an easy matter. As expected, a cyan flame immediately emerged from Cheng Fei-jun's body, and the strange fire in Ling Han's body immediately revealed excitement, sending a thought of Yaya to Ling Han, wanting to devour this cyan flame. Ling Han waved his hand, and a crimson strange fire instantly appeared, pouncing towards the cyan flame without hesitation. The 2 flames instantly fought. This was a battle between strange fires. Whoever won could devour the other, allowing themselves to grow, but the opponent would disappear forever. Ling Han couldn't intervene in such a battle, even if he was the master here. However, Ling Han's strange fire was nurtured from a shattering void tier elite's body, and its grade was extremely high. Moreover, with the Black Tower strengthening, Its strength increased greatly, and it quickly gained the upper hand. The two strange fires began to fuse, and it was visible to the naked eye that the cyan flame was disappearing, while the crimson flame became brighter and brighter. Ling Han made up his mind and brought Cheng Fei-jun out of the Black Tower, casually throwing him to the side. If it weren't for the strange fire, he wouldn't stoop to such a minor character's level. This time he just happened to be going to be certified as an Earth-grade alchemist, and conveniently obtained a strange fire so it could be considered a great harvest. When he arrived at the main hall, Long Yongzhang and the others were already waiting there, all expressing their congratulations to Ling Han. Ling Han thanked them one by one, then brought Hunyo back to the inn, agreeing to come back in a few days. He had to get the proof of an Earth-grade alchemist to leave, so he indeed had to stay here for a while. However, Long Yongzhang and the others promised to get Ling Han's proof of identity as soon as possible, and wouldn't make Ling Han wait for long. Zhu Hexian told them about Ling Han's advancement to an Earth-grade alchemist, instantly causing everyone in Guang'an to be dumbfounded. Only a few days had passed, and Ling Han advanced from a black-grade high-level alchemist to Earth-grade. How could they believe it? But they immediately became excited again. Following an Earth-grade alchemist, would they still have to worry about not having medicine to eat in the future? They were destined to be medicine pots, and let others be envious. On the surface they said they wanted to celebrate for Ling Han, but in reality they wanted to gorge themselves. After all, Ling Han's fruits, vegetables, and meat were too delicious, and they kept thinking about it. Actually, they didn't know that Ling Han had a vegetable garden that could supply the entire rain country, or else they wouldn't have made such a request by chance. In their minds, these mortal delicacies were definitely extremely rare. It was night, in a quiet courtyard in the north of the small town. Cheng Fei-jun was dressed in black and appeared like a thief. He knocked on the door 3 long and 2 short knocks. With a creak, the door opened and a 14 or 15-year-old boy appeared. However, he expressionlessly stepped aside and did not say a word. Cheng Fei-jun's figure flashed, and he entered the courtyard. His footsteps were quick, and in just a few steps, he had arrived at the main hall. An unassuming old man was sitting and drinking tea. However, upon closer inspection, his complexion was strangely pale. "Greetings, Lord Luo." Cheng Fei-jun hurriedly knelt down and saluted, his arrogant attitude long gone. "Report every 10 days. Why did you come early?" The old man surnamed Luo spoke, his voice hoarse, revealing a hint of gloom. At this time the boy also walked into the main hall and stood behind the old man. Under the light, one could clearly see his appearance. His face was red and white, and it was indescribably strange. It turned out that he had put on some powder and rouge. Why would a young man put on powder and rouge? Chapter 293. Cheng Fei-jun didn't even look at it, still kneeling on the ground, and said, "This subordinate made a huge mistake. Please punish me, Master Luo." "What mistake?" The old man surnamed Luo was still unhurried as he drank his tea. Cheng Fei-jun gritted his teeth, and said, "This subordinate's strange fire was stolen." "Pooh!" The old man surnamed Luo instantly spat out a mouthful of hot tea, stood up abruptly, and shouted sternly, "Do you know how many people and resources were spent to get that strange fire for you? Do you know how many elders of the sect were mobilized and how much price was paid to inject that strange fire into your body?" "This subordinate knows, but this subordinate really had no choice," Cheng Fei-jun said with a long face. "What happened? Tell me in full detail, don't hide anything." The old man surnamed Luo also calmed down. Yes. Cheng Fei-jun hurriedly told about the bet with Ling Han. However, in his mouth, he naturally downplayed Cheng Kaifu's arrogance, and instead said that Ling Han schemed and had long set his eyes on his strange fire, which was why he first clashed with Cheng Kaifu, and then baited him into a bet. The old man surnamed Luo listened without a word, and when Cheng Fei-jun finished he said, "You're saying that he took the strange fire in the short time you were unconscious?" "That's right." Cheng Fei-jun hurriedly nodded. This subordinate obviously knows the importance of strange fire. It's related to the great matter of Lord Sect seizing this Star Brilliance Palace Hall. Even if this subordinate was torn apart by 5 horses, I definitely wouldn't hand over the strange fire. The old man surnamed Luo didn't take his impassioned expression to heart. He revealed a contemplative expression and said, "This person is the same as you, Only in the gushing spring tier. Not only in the gushing spring tier, but only in the first layer, Chang Fei-jun hurriedly added. Are you trash? You're in the 7th layer of the gushing spring tier. Yet you can't even defeat someone in the first layer of the gushing spring tier, humph. The old man surnamed Luo glared fiercely at Chang Fei-jun, then closed his eyes and thought for a while. According to what you said, this youngster is very strange, becoming an earth-grade alchemist at such a young age. Chang Fei-jun's expression was slightly strange because he only said that Ling Han advanced to an earth-grade alchemist, but did not specifically describe how relaxed Ling Han was when concocting pills. Not only was there a little girl messing around, but he was also roasting meat at the same time. This was practically nature-defying. Ling Han was definitely not an ordinary earth-grade low-level alchemist. His true level was probably soaring to earth-grade high-level, and it was precisely because of this that Long Yongzhang and the other 2 earth-grade low-level alchemists would revere Ling Han as if he were a god. In the world of alchemy, whoever was stronger in alchemy would be the senior, the boss, and would receive the absolute respect of others. But if he really said that, then perhaps Old Man Luo would want to recruit Ling Han. How could he avenge his brother's death then? He had to be selfish. Old Man Luo lightly knocked on the table and said, not only is this boy's alchemy level shocking, he also has battle prowess in martial art that far surpasses his cultivation level. This old man will personally go out and capture this boy. Without the strange fire, you can't possibly control the Star Brilliance Palace Hall here. Sect Master's plan definitely cannot fail in the hands of a junior. Chang Fei-jun was overjoyed. Ling Han also had a strange fire, so didn't that mean that he could obtain 2 strange fires in the future? Then his alchemy level would definitely increase. In this way, not only could he avenge his brother's death, he could also reap some benefits. Naturally, it was the best of both worlds. Thank you, sir, he hurriedly said. Stand up. Old Man Luo finally raised his hand. Don't get into conflict with that boy these few days in case he raises his guard. This old man will act as soon as possible to avoid any undue delay. Chang Fei-jun finally dared to stand up, and said, this subordinate obeys. Also, this old man received news that many of the younger generation of the 9 nations of the desolate north have already moved, planning to go to the Winter Moon sect and participate in their once every 5 years disciple recruitment. There should be many good seedlings among this group of youngsters. This old man wants you to think of a way to keep them, observe them as much as possible, and pick out talents worthy of nurturing. This old man will personally come out and bring them into the sect. Old Man Luo ordered. Yes, this subordinate will definitely do it properly, Chang Fei-jun said respectfully. Go. Old Man Luo waved his hand, his expression clearly displeased. Chang Fei-jun didn't dare to say anything, and hurriedly turned to leave. The boy closed the door after he walked out, and returned to the main hall, still expressionless. Looks like the important matter is about to succeed. After assassinating Long Yongzhang and the other 2 old geezers, Chang Fei-jun's prestige will be able to control the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, and he can carry out Lord Sect Master's plan to push out an improved type of alchemical pill, adding corpse chi powder, allowing the martial artists of the 9 nations to refine their own corpse soldiers. These corpse soldiers will first devour the flesh and blood of countless mortals, then fight and devour each other, just like raising venomous insects. The last one left will become a corpse king, becoming a powerful aid for our 1,000 corpse sect. How hateful, a junior actually appeared at this time and obstructed Lord Sect Master's plan. Humph, this boy can't be left alive. This old man will personally take him down tomorrow and force out the strange fire. That trash Chang Fei-jun will have his strange fire stolen from him in the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. Truly an idiot. Forget it, that boy named Ling Han has already become an earth-grade alchemist, and he has to be eliminated, or else it will definitely affect Lord Sect Master's plan. After Old Man Luo muttered to himself, he stared at the boy on the side. A strange color floated in his eyes, and his snake-like tongue lightly licked his lips, saying, "Little sweetheart, it's late, we should go to bed." Hearing this, the boy immediately revealed a sinister expression, and grabbed Old Man Luo, pressing him onto the desk, and said fiercely, "Old man, I won't fuck you up today." Old Man Luo's face was full of ripples, and he didn't resist at all. He obediently stuck his butt up, and that scene was too beautiful to dare. After a day, Ling Han went to the Star Brilliance Palace Hall again. He wanted to look up some information. Martial art was still unclear, but alchemy certainly had a gap in inheritance. There should be historical records of alchemy in the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, and Ling Han wanted to go. How did this gap in history happen, and what exactly happened back then? Additionally, he also wanted to know about that shattering void tier elite. Why did he attract the joint attack of Zhang Yufeng and several hundred heaven tier elites, and what secrets were hidden within? Although he still didn't have proof of identity, everyone in the Star Brilliance Palace Hall now regarded him as an Earth-grade alchemist. If he wanted to look up historical records, who would stop him? He entered the library, where there were a whole 7 enormous bookshelves filled with all kinds of information. Ling Han began to flip through them, looking for what he wanted. Very quickly he furrowed his brows, because all the detailed records of history actually began more than 8,000 years ago. Strange. Chapter 294. According to the records, 9,000 years ago, a great calamity occurred in the lower realm. Many elites died, which also led to the great destruction of martial art and alchemy. After a few hundred years of chaos, the lower realm was finally rebuilt, forming the structure it had today. Ling Han found his name in the records. In his last life he was called the Alchemy Emperor, and created the 3 fire guide technique, which was unfortunately lost. However, the names of his 2 disciples who studied alchemy with him were nowhere to be found. Not only them but Zhang Yufeng and Chan Ruijing, the 2 disciples of martial art, were also unknown, as if they had never existed in this world. Besides, Ling Han didn't find the biographies of Sword Emperor and Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden. In the past, he only thought that Sword Emperor and Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden were very strong, but now that he thought about it, their sex should also be a colossus terrifyingly shocking. Azura Demon Emperor recognized the 3 styles of black origin, but directly mentioned Heaven's Sword Palace. Azura Demon Emperor came from the realm of gods, so Heaven's Sword Palace should also be a force of the realm of gods. With a sword technique like the 3 styles of black origin appearing in Heaven's Sword Sect, could it be assumed that Heaven's Sword Sect was a branch of Heaven's Sword Palace in the lower realm? If this assumption was correct, at least Sword Emperor should have a way to break through to the shattering void tier, and even further ascending to the realm of gods. Then, Sword Emperor should be brilliant in the world, illuminating an era, so how could there be no records? It was really incomprehensible. The Great Chaos 9,000 years ago, was it caused by the shattering void tier elites besieged by Zhang Yufeng and the others? But if Heaven's Sword Sect could communicate with the realm of gods, how could it be so tragic that hundreds of heaven tier elites had to sacrifice their lives? Ling Han put down the ancient records and began to flip through the geographical records, as well as the distribution of various forces. The strongest in the north region was only in the spiritual infant tier, so he put this aside for now. The south, east, and west regions were slightly stronger with heaven tier elites overseeing them, and there were quite a lot of them. At least on the surface, each region had over a dozen such elites, far surpassing Ling Han's last life. Could it be that in my previous life I just so happened to appear in a post-apocalyptic world of martial art? That's why there are only 7 Heaven Realm experts in the world. Even if I include a power like Heavenly Sword Sect, there shouldn't be that many Heaven Realm experts, right? However, in less than a few hundred years, martial art ushered in a flourishing age. At least a few hundred Heaven tier elites were born, and a shattering void tier elite died. And now, another golden age of martial art has come, and a large number of celestial realm warriors have appeared. It won't be another catastrophe, will it? Ling Han rubbed his nose and continued. The strongest in the field of martial art was the middle state, and it was said that there were shattering void tier elites in charge. If it was the time when he'd just been reborn, Ling Han would definitely exclaim in shock. Fuck, a living shattering void tier elite actually appeared, but he'd even seen a living god, so this shattering void tier seemed to be just that. No one knew how many shattering void tier elites there were in the middle state, but Ling Han discovered the records of Heaven's Sword Sect. This force was one of the strongest sects in the middle state, and had a shattering void tier elite overseeing it. Was this Heaven's Sword Sect the Heaven's Sword Sect from his previous life? Ling Han felt that it should be. Then, if he could go to Heaven's Sword Sect and flip through the ancient records, he'd definitely be able to discover the whole story of the Great Turmoil 9,000 years ago. However, this sect doesn't seem to accept disciples, or else I could sneak in. With the Black Tower as a cover, along with blood-sucking origin gold, I could enter any treasure vault and open any lock. Also, Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden's Cloud Phoenix sect also stands in the middle state, and Setting Sun Saber Emperor's Absolute Saber sect is the same. And when my tier is a bit higher, I'll definitely go to the middle state. After Ling Han browsed for a while, he stood up and left. He solved some of his doubts, but there were even more unsolved mysteries, making him very gloomy. Ling Han inquired about the remaining 3 main ingredients of the Restore Spirit pill, but the Star Brilliance Palace Hall indeed didn't have such ingredients. These 3 ingredients were all Earth-grade ingredients, so it was normal that the Star Brilliance planet didn't have them. After all, this was only the Tianyiji headquarters of the 9 nations of the Desolate North. He believed that if he went to the central city of the Desolate North, the Tianyiji there would definitely have these 3 ingredients. Ling Han left the Star Brilliance Palace Hall and walked towards the inn, but very soon, he had a feeling of discomfort. Someone was following him. Ling Han was immediately certain. He had the divine sense of a heaven-tier warrior, and was extremely sensitive. After being stared at a few times, he would naturally react. However, for the time being, he still didn't know who was following him. Without batting an eyelid, Ling Han began to walk towards a less crowded area. After walking for half an hour, when he arrived at a corner, his figure flashed, and he entered the Black Tower. Not long after, an old man's figure appeared. He stood at the corner, looking into the distance with a hint of suspicion on his face. He was obviously the old man surnamed Luo from yesterday. Because the matter of the strange fire was too important, he started taking action the next day, keeping an eye on Ling Han's movements, looking for an opportunity to make a move. First, it wasn't bad. Ling Han actually walked towards a less crowded area, practically creating an opportunity for him. However, he never would have thought that when this brat turned into an alley, he actually disappeared without a trace. Where did he run off to? The old man surnamed Luo revealed a doubtful expression because he was confident that with his spiritual pedestal tier cultivation, it was impossible for Ling Han to discover him. However, the latter disappeared without a trace, which meant that the latter actually noticed him. This brat was indeed strange, and couldn't be underestimated. He walked around in place for a long time, wanting to find the secret behind Ling Han's sudden disappearance, but in the end, he could only shake his head and leave with a leap. Ling Han didn't appear, but rather stayed in the Black Tower with the strange fire. Now, the fusion of the 2 strange fires was nearing completion, and would be completed in at most half an hour. He waited patiently, and sure enough, in less than half an hour, a crimson flame flew over and danced around him, sending out a thought of Yaya. Ling Han. However, in a short while, the strange fire suddenly transmitted a thought. Ling Han jumped in fright. The strange fire could actually speak. No wonder the strange fire wanted to devour and fuse with other strange fires, because that was how they grew stronger. Not only the might of the flames but also their intelligence. You can actually speak. Then you can't stay in my hands anymore. Or else you'll take away all my privacy, Ling Han said with a smile. The strange fire jumped onto his shoulder, but strangely didn't ignite his clothes. Firstly, the strange fire itself could be controlled, and secondly, this was the Black Tower space, so Ling Han had the final say. It said, I also want a name. You also want a name? Ling Han scratched his head and said, naming isn't my forte. Since there's a small tower, you'll be called Small Fire. Small Fire, I'm Small Fire. The strange fire didn't mind, and after getting a name it was extremely happy, jumping up and down on Ling Han's shoulder. Chapter 295. Youngster, you've just come to the Dark Demon Forest, right? A sturdy man in his 30s looked at Ling Han with a smile. Yes. Ling Han nodded. This could be seen at a glance, unlike other people who had a strong earthy smell on their bodies, which was caused by being exposed to the sun and dew at night in the forest. The sturdy man snickered, stretched out his hand and said, Here, everything depends on a transaction. If you want to ask a question, you have to give them something in return. How much? Ling Han asked indifferently. His wallet was now bulging again, so he was naturally indifferent to origin crystals. 1 origin crystal. The sturdy man raised a finger. 1 question required 1 origin crystal. Ling Han didn't mind. As long as he could find crimson red chilling ice grass, he wouldn't feel heartache even if he had to pay 1,000,000 origin crystals. He immediately took out an origin crystal and handed it over. The sturdy man took the origin crystal and snickered. It's time to answer the question. Ling Han knocked on the table. All right. The sturdy man nodded and said, I don't know. Ling Han's gaze immediately sharpened, and he said, Are you messing with me? Youngster, I'm teaching you a lesson. When you're outside, you have to be more careful. Don't trust people easily. The sturdy man laughed loudly, not the slightest bit worried that Ling Han would make a move on him. Because this was the territory of the Gale Demon clan, if Ling Han dared to make a move here, he'd be chased out at best or killed at worst. Otherwise, this place wouldn't have become a safe haven. It was said that in a stronghold like this, there were even many vicious and wanted criminals who were chased by forces like the Winter Moon sect and the Beast Emperor sect, fleeing to this place. However, they didn't dare to make a move in the stronghold, which showed how deep the four great forces' tyranny was in people's hearts. Ling Han took his arrogance into his eyes, and with a casual swipe, 10 ginsengs instantly appeared on the table. Each root was as thick as a child's arm, and the roots were twisted like dragons. Hiss! When everyone saw it, they all stared with wide eyes. These were at least 200 or 300 years old treasured ginsengs. There were such treasured ginsengs in the dark demon forest, but they needed to go deep into the forest's core because it was too dangerous there. Usually, not to mention people entering, even demonic beasts were very rare, so there were a lot of spirit herbs, and their medicinal ages were astonishing. Such treasured ginsengs could be sold for a few dozen origin crystals, which was definitely more than enough. 10 of them would be worth a few hundred origin crystals, which was a very large fortune. If spiritual ocean tier warriors didn't steal or rob, they would need to spend dozens of years to refine them. All of a sudden, everyone's breathing quickened and their eyes turned red, wanting nothing more than to snatch them. Ling Han smiled faintly, pointed at the brawny man just now, and said, Whoever kills him for me, these ginsengs will belong to him. Instantly, everyone's eyes were fixed on that brawny man. This person was only at the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and for a late-stage spiritual ocean tier martial artist, killing him might not be as easy as flipping one's hand, but it wouldn't be too difficult either. Just lifting a finger and earning a few hundred origin crystals, where else could they find such a good business? Moreover, what kind of great tonic was 100-year-old ginseng? Martial artists like them usually fought with humans and beasts, inevitably leaving behind internal injuries that normal healing medicinal pills couldn't touch. Only such a great tonic could completely heal them. Such a treasure could only be encountered, not sought. Youngster, fighting isn't allowed in the stronghold, someone said. Ling Han smiled and said, No matter, you guys just keep watch. Although I'll be leaving soon, I'll leave 10 ginsengs with the stronghold master. Whoever kills him can go find the stronghold master to collect them. Now everyone can be at ease, right? All right. Everyone nodded. There were indeed people in the stronghold that would issue missions and ask for help, but if it was done through the Gust Demon Hall, it was inevitable that they'd get a cut. Thus, everyone hoped that the brawny man would leave the stronghold as soon as possible, quickly kill him, and then directly find Ling Han to collect the reward. This way, they wouldn't have to get a cut from the Gust Demon Hall. The brawny man's face turned green. He didn't expect that he'd be tricked to death by Ling Han just because he cheated a piece of origin crystal. He hurriedly took out that piece of origin crystal and threw it at Ling Han as if it was a hot potato. I don't want your origin crystal, quickly take back the reward. Which family's second generation was this? Actually wasting a treasured ginseng like this. Did your mother know you were so awesome? Ling Han didn't catch it and said, Take it, you can just go order a good coffin. The brawny man was so scared that he was about to cry. He only wanted to take advantage of Ling Han, but who would have thought that he would attract a fatal disaster? He hurriedly knelt down in front of Ling Han and said, Young master, I was wrong, please forgive me. You really have to know your mistake, Ling Han said with a smile. I really have to know. The brawny man continuously waved his hand and slapped himself. Each slap was very forceful and even blood came out. Ling Han nodded and said, All right, this reward is cancelled. Ling Han was indifferent and said, The reward just now is cancelled, and replaced with a new one. Whoever can tell me where in the forest there is a place where cold and heat intersect, These 10 treasured ginsengs will belong to him. Really? Everyone's expression changed back to one of pleasant surprise. Ling Han nodded and said, of course it's true. However, if anyone treats me like an idiot and randomly spits out a place, then I don't mind putting a reward on him. Everyone sucked in their teeth. Just now, that brawny man only tricked Ling Han of a piece of origin crystal, and the latter took out 10 treasured ginsengs to put a bounty on his head. If he tricked Ling Han of 10 treasured ginsengs, then how much would the latter offer as a reward? This kind of spoiled brat was really scary, rich, willful. For a moment everyone was silent. Some people wanted to fool him but were scared stiff. Young master, I know of a place that meets your requirements. After a while someone spoke up. He mentioned a place in the northwestern part of the Dark Demon Forest, and even attached a map to Ling Han indicating the location. Ling Han inquired in detail but was very disappointed because that place was indeed intertwined with cold and heat, but it was far from what he wanted. However, he still gave the other 10 treasured ginsengs to establish his credibility. Does anyone else know of such a place? One piece of information in exchange for 10 treasured ginsengs. Ling Han waved his hand and took out another 100-year-old ginsengs. Anyways, these things were like cabbages to him. Someone indeed received a reward, which instantly made the others excited. Even some onlookers were eager to give it a try. It didn't matter if they didn't know, couldn't they go and find out? I'll stay here for 2 days. If there's any news, come find me. Ling Han threw down these words and left the restaurant, paying to rent a guest room. Chapter 296. Ling Han had already used the power of the Star Brilliance Palace Hall to investigate the old man surnamed Luo. This person was called Luo Jifeng and had arrived in town 3 years ago. He had always been very low-key, as if living in seclusion here. Since he didn't cause trouble, the Star Brilliance Palace Hall obviously couldn't chase him away. At first they monitored him for a while, but after such a long time they no longer cared about him. During this time, Luo Jifeng would often run to the inn to monitor Ling Han. Of course, he thought he hid well enough, but it was impossible to hide from Ling Han's divine sense. However, Ling Han didn't make a move at all. The reason why Ling Han didn't make a move for so many days was because he didn't want to give Luo Jifeng the chance to make a move. If he dared to openly make a move in the inn, it would be equivalent to going against the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. And Ling Han was now an Earth-grade alchemist. Publicly making a move against Ling Han would definitely incite the wrath of the Alchemist Society. At this moment, 2 major events happened in succession. First, a large number of the younger generation of the 9 nations of the desolate north left their countries and headed towards the Winter Moon sect. Ling Han made some inquiries and found out that the Winter Moon sect would open their mountain gates once every 5 years to accept disciples. For the younger generation, being able to enter the Winter Moon sect meant that they would have a chance to charge into the spiritual infant tier in the future. Not to mention the younger generation, even the older generation was eager to make a move. However, the Winter Moon sect did not accept disciples under 30 years old. Taking a step back, even if they couldn't enter the Winter Moon sect, they could gain experience and couldn't always stay in one nation and be arrogant. Because the Fallen Moon Gorge was the only way to enter the North region, there were large numbers of young martial artists gathered in the desolate north. It was said that Cheng Fei-jun invited them to organize a martial art tea party to discuss martial art. For the youngsters, they were definitely number 1 in the world. Hearing there was such an event, they obviously had to participate. After all, the younger generation of the 9 nations were here. Who didn't want to take the lead and become number 1 in the desolate north? Resounding face. On the other hand, Cheng Fei-jun also took out a restore heart pill and said it would be a reward for the first place this time, arousing the youngsters' passion even more. The heart-repairing pill was a panacea for healing injuries. It was said that as long as one was still breathing, even the most serious injury could be healed immediately. In the worst-case scenario, it could still save one's life. To a martial artist, what could be more precious than a life-saving medicinal pill? Therefore, fame and profit naturally attracted many people. Secondly, Ling Han had been painstakingly searching for the blue-scale demonic fruit, one of the main ingredients needed to refine the spirit supplement pill. The Spirit Treasure Pavilion announced that they would be holding a large-scale auction, and a blue-scale demonic fruit would be sold at the auction. This was probably related to the recent gathering of many young geniuses. The geniuses of the 9 nations gathered together, so naturally, there was no lack of rich people. According to legend, this kind of spirit medicine grew together with the jade-scaled beast, and the jade-scaled beast was a 7th-tier beast, equivalent to the level of the spiritual infant tier. Thus, the difficulty of harvesting it was considerably high. The blue-scale demonic fruit was the main ingredient for refining the soul-nourishing pellet. It could repair a martial artist's damaged divine sense and was extremely useful. Starting from the flower blossom tier, when martial artists comprehended heaven and earth, they would spiritually wander into the void, often creating extremely dangerous illusions, such as traveling through hell and battling with terrifying opponents, causing martial artists to lose themselves and be unable to distinguish between illusion and reality. If a martial artist was injured in such an illusory world, their divine sense would be severely damaged. Spirit, chi, and soul were all indispensable to a martial artist. If their divine sense was injured, it would affect their ability to refine spiritual chi from their spiritual roots, causing their cultivation to stagnate. In more serious cases, it could even cause cultivation to regress and drop in tier. Thus, the soul-nourishing pellet that could repair divine sense became extremely precious. That's right, there was also a spirit treasure pavilion here, which was similar to the spirit treasure pavilion of Rain Country. Just like Tianyiji, it had branches everywhere. However, Tianyiji sold medicine, while the spirit treasure pavilion specialized in the auction business. When Ling Han heard the news, he immediately went to the spirit treasure pavilion, hoping that they could name a price and directly sell the blue-scale demonic fruit to him. After all, he had left all his money in the Ling family, so it was useless even if he brought it over. They didn't accept the banknotes from Rain Country at all. Thus, he hoped that he could buy it on credit. He believed that with an Earth-grade alchemist as a guarantee, the ability to pay back the money was definitely not a problem. However, the manager of the Spirit Treasure Pavilion expressed regret. They never had a precedent of selling internally, and would not set such a precedent. Ling Han could only prepare more money before the auction began. And to buy spirit medicine above level 5, gold and silver were useless. One needed to use something called Origin Power Crystal. Origin Power Crystal was also called Origin Crystal. It wasn't a natural object, but a martial artist, at least in the spiritual ocean tier, had to extract their own origin power and pour it into a special crystal, and then seal it with the intent of martial art. Origin Power Crystal could be refined and absorbed by other martial artists to speed up cultivation, and even comprehend the intent of martial art within. This was a very good supplementary item for cultivation, and even surpassed most medicinal pills, becoming the most popular item among martial artists, thus becoming the common currency of the vast lands. The origin power crystals refined by martial artists of different tiers obviously had different values. The ones refined by spiritual ocean tier martial artists were the lowest, called 1-star origin power crystal, and those refined by Shattering Void tier elites were obviously the highest, called 7 stars. The ones circulating in the market were basically 1-star origin crystals, and those of 7 stars were like a fantasy, only heard of and almost never seen. After all, which Shattering Void tier elite needed to refine origin crystals to earn money? Ling Han was determined to get the blue-scale demonic fruit, but a very practical problem was placed in front of him. He had no money. Such a spirit fruit would definitely need a large amount of origin crystals to be auctioned. But Ling Han didn't even have a single origin crystal. Even if he went back to squeeze Guang Yuan and made him work like a horse to refine it, the auction would start in 3 days, so how many could he make? The 7 turns break crisis pill can be auctioned, but I don't know how many origin crystals it can be sold for, so it's not safe. Ling Han thought about it and decided to take 2 approaches at the same time. On one hand, he would auction the 7 turns break crisis pill, and on the other hand, he would sell the medicinal ingredients grown in the Black Tower. Mainly ginseng and ganoderma. These were good things to nourish origin chi, and the older they were, the more precious they were. In the Black Tower, 1 year was equivalent to 1,000 years, so it was very easy to grow 1,000-year-old ginseng and 1,000-year-old ganoderma. Of course, it had only been about 2 months since Ling Han opened the Black Tower, so he couldn't grow 1,000-year-old ones yet. However, 100-year-old ginseng and 100-year-old ganoderma were definitely in high demand, and he didn't have to worry about not being able to sell them. Everyone liked things that nourished the body. Not to mention spiritual pedestal tier and spiritual infant tier elites. Even shattering void tier elites wouldn't mind eating them often. For example, a ginseng stewed pheasant. Who could resist such delicious and nourishing things? Ling Han didn't know how many acres of ginseng and Ganoderma were planted, so he didn't care about taking out a few acres to sell, because he didn't want to expose the secret of the Black Tower. Ling Han planned to go back first and dig out the ginseng and Ganoderma, processing them before taking them out. Otherwise, if he directly threw them out with fresh soil, it would really be suspected. A spatial spirit tool that could accommodate living things, damn, maybe even shattering void tier elites would be interested. And at that time, even the title of Earth Grade Alchemist couldn't protect him. Phone reading was more refreshing. Chapter 297. However, just as Ling Han returned to the inn, he encountered a group of old friends. Qi Yongyi, Bailey Tingyun, Li Dongyu, and the descendants of the 8 great clans of the imperial city, such as Zhao Huan, Qian Wuyong, Huang Weizhe, and so on. These people would basically be the mainstay of Rain Country for the next 30 years. They all heard that Ling Han became an Earth Grade Alchemist, asked around, and came to visit after knowing that Ling Han lived here. An Earth Grade Alchemist was too awesome, setting a precedent in Rain Country. Even if Rain Emperor came personally, he was only fit to be on equal footing with Ling Han, and even weaker emperors would have to flatter Ling Han. Since that was the case, these youngsters knew that Ling Han was here, so how could they not come to visit and greet him? Moreover, if they could form a relationship with such a super alchemist, that would be a huge gain. Master Ling. Qi Yongyi and the others all smiled, not daring to directly call Ling Han by name. Ling Han didn't take it to heart. He naturally didn't need to treat his friends as outsiders, but Qi Yongyi, Bailey Tingyun, and the others didn't pass his test, so they could only be considered casual acquaintances. No matter what they called Ling Han, he wouldn't care. However, Ling Han wouldn't be stingy either, and took out the vegetables, fruits, and meat he had grown in the Black Tower to entertain everyone. Now there were still quite a few low-level demonic beasts inside. But if he wanted to entertain casual acquaintances, normal meat was enough. For a moment, everyone was fighting over plates, and the scene was out of control. The others in the inn thought they were going to fight, and almost ran to the Star Brilliance Palace Hall to call for help. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, as martial artists, everyone couldn't help but feel itchy. Can you actually reached the 9th layer of the Gushing Spring tier? Zhao Huan looked at Can Yi with some shock. Before this, he always suppressed Can Yi in cultivation, but now he just broke through the 7th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. But Can Yi soared to the 9th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. How could he not be shocked? Qian Wuyong and the others also cried out in surprise. The path of martial art was difficult. One must leave a footprint with every step. It was indeed possible to make huge leaps in the lower realms, but the higher one's cultivation, the slower it would be. It was like climbing a tall mountain. At first, one could sprint quickly, but halfway up the mountain, one would be out of breath and have to rest after every few steps. Can Ye's advancement speed completely surpassed their expectations. Can Ye didn't say a word, and remained as cold as before. He only lightly rubbed the hilt of the saber. In his eyes there was no person that was closer to him than a saber. Everyone was only shocked for a moment before coming to a sudden realization. Don't forget, Can Yi was currently following an Earth Grade Alchemist. With an Earth Grade Alchemist using alchemical pills, how could his cultivation not advance quickly? In reality, Can Yi also possessed the qualifications to break through to the spiritual ocean tier. But he was the same as Ling Han. Because he advanced through alchemical pills, he had to first stabilize his cultivation. Blindly pursuing high cultivation was like pulling up seedlings to help them grow. The repercussions would quickly appear. If there was a situation where battle prowess star value couldn't keep up with cultivation, then how different would he be from a cripple? Can Yi fight me? Zhao Huan challenged. Previously, he was always able to steadily suppress Can Yi. But now that Can Ye's cultivation instead surpassed him, he wanted to fight even more to prove that he was the strongest genius in the imperial city. Freaks like Ling Han, Yin Tianzhao, and Feng Yan could be ignored. Can Yi didn't accept the challenge, shook his head and said, "You're not my match, I'll kill you with one strike." Zhao Huan couldn't help but be angry, but because Ling Han was present, he couldn't act out. He only snorted and said, 2 days later, it's the martial art tea party. I hope you won't be stingy with your battle then. Kin Yi was silent for a moment, then pointed at Ling Han and said, I'm not the target you want to surpass, he is. Everyone was instantly speechless. Who didn't know Ling Han was freakish, defeating Yin Tianzhao with one strike and crippling Feng Yan with one palm. He was practically a monster. Moreover, this monster was a big boss of alchemy, so who dared to challenge him? Master Ling, will you also participate in the martial art tea party, the day after tomorrow? Qi Yongyi asked. Ling Han thought for a moment, then said, there's no harm in going. If Master Ling participates, then we can only stand to the side. Qian Wuyong smiled, giving Ling Han a small bootlicking. But Master Ling, I beg of you, hurry up and increase your cultivation. We'll lose too much face if we're always suppressed by someone in the first layer of the gushing spring tier. Huang Weizhe also joked. This was also because Ling Han was young, or else if it was Fu Yuansheng, he definitely wouldn't dare to say such words. Ling Han couldn't help but smile. His springs I had already fused in advance, so whether it was the 3rd layer of the gushing spring tier or the 9th layer, he'd be in the 1st layer of the gushing spring tier. He said, don't worry, I won't act the day after tomorrow. With such a good opportunity, he planned to sell the ginseng and Ganoderma in the Black Tower to the people of the 9 nations of the desolate north. This way, he could weaken the financial resources of his competitors for the blue-scale demonic fruit and increase his own wealth, naturally killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Master Ling, you said it. Everyone's eyes lit up. The strongest person in the 9 nations of the desolate north. Who wouldn't want to wear such a halo? But if Ling Han acted, then others wouldn't have any hope at all, unless they broke through to the spiritual ocean tier. But how many spiritual ocean tier warriors under 30 were there? Only Feng Yan and Yin Tianzhao, these 2 freaks. Ling Han smiled and said, I said it, so don't worry, I only plan to sell some things. What medicinal pill does Master Ling plan to sell? Everyone was curious. This youngster advanced into the earth grade, so the medicinal pill he took out would definitely be shocking. You'll know the day after tomorrow. Ling Han kept it a secret. Although everyone was curious, they didn't dare to ask Ling Han, and could only feel an itch in their hearts. Anyway, it was only 2 days, so they just bear with it. The answer would be revealed the day after tomorrow. They ate until late at night and everyone left. However, 2 people even stayed in this inn so they could return to their rooms in a few steps. 1 day, 2 days, time passed very quickly, and it was already the day of the martial art tea party. The location was set on the plaza in the east of the town. A huge pergola was temporarily erected here, enough to seat several thousand people. And this time, although the younger generation of the 9 nations of the desolate north all came, those who came were also the best of the best, at least in the poly tier. So, on average, each nation could get a few hundred seats, which was enough. The martial art tea party started at noon and ended at night. Ling Han, Lu Yutong, and the others came to the plaza, and randomly found a place to sit. There were more people in their group, and they soon occupied a table. Hunyo couldn't sit still, and immediately took out the snacks she prepared from the spatial ring, eating very happily. Soon more and more people came, and even the star guards were mobilized to maintain order. After all, young people were impetuous and it wouldn't be good if someone died in a fight. Friends, thank you for coming, I'm grateful. Cheng Feijun appeared and said in a loud and clear voice, instantly making most people stand up. This was a black-grade high-level alchemist, and he could be considered a big shot in any nation, so how could they be disrespectful? Chapter 298. Ling Han naturally wouldn't respond, and since he didn't move, Lu Yutong and the others naturally wouldn't give Cheng Feijun any face, and similarly sat upright. Hey, Grandmaster Cheng has come out to speak, and you all actually dare to sit, not giving any face at all. Someone sneered, obviously flattering Cheng Feijun. Do we need to give him face? Zhu Wuzhou immediately said. He naturally knew of the conflict between Cheng Feijun and Ling Han, and immediately glared at him. Good. Not only do you not respect Grandmaster Cheng, but you also insult Grandmaster Cheng in public. I think you're dead. That person swept his gaze over Ling Han and the others' faces, and when he saw Lu Yutong and Li Xichan's stunning beauty, his gaze involuntarily tightened, revealing a stunned expression. You shut up. Beside that person, someone directly gave him a slap. You idiot, do you know who he is? Ling Han, a newly advanced Earth-grade alchemist. If you want to die, then die by yourself, don't drag us down. Pooh, that person instantly spat out, his face turning deathly pale. He didn't know Chung Fei-jun, and to be honest he wanted to know Chung Fei-jun, but Chung Fei-jun might not even pay attention to him. Thus, he seized this opportunity to stir up trouble. Wasn't it to curry favor with Chung Fei-jun and establish a relationship with him? Fine, he didn't manage to curry favor, but instead offended an Earth-grade alchemist. Wasn't this seeking death? Ling, Grandmaster Ling, I have eyes but failed to see, please forgive me, he hurriedly said in a trembling voice. Ling Han only waved his hand. He naturally wouldn't take such a minor character to heart. That person acted as if he was pardoned, hurriedly nodding at Ling Han, but no matter what, he didn't dare to stay here anymore. After sitting for a while, he stood up and left, afraid that Ling Han would suddenly find him to settle the score. Everyone, today's focus is tea tasting and Dao discussion. Tea drinking comes first, harmony comes first, and as for sparring, don't go overboard, Chung Fei-jun said with a smile. Then he took out a pill bottle and showed it to the surroundings. This is a repair heart pill. A reward for today's Dao discussion champion. Who wouldn't go all out with the heart-mending pill? Ah ha ha. I'm Hung Fei from the Stone Kingdom. I'm most proficient in fist techniques. Who wants to spar with me? A sturdy youth flew into the arena first. There was a huge empty space in the middle of the pergola, which was used for fighting. Do you think you're worthy of using fists? A thin young man walked out, exuding an astonishing chill. Showing off your fists in front of me, Lian Xiaozhu, will only lead to death. Humph, are you the only one in the world who can use fists? Hung Fei said coldly. Naturally, he would not be afraid. When I become the strongest under the heavens, only I can use my fist. No one else is allowed to insult my fist techniques, Lian Xiaozhu said gravely. What an arrogant fellow. He actually said he wants to become the number one under the heavens. Lian Xiaozhu, eh? Could it be that Fire Nation's Lian Xiaozhu? Have you heard of him? This person is known as the Fist Fanatic. I heard that he only knows one fist technique, which is the most ordinary Black Tiger Steel's heart. He has been practicing it for more than 10 years. Who are you joking? Practicing Black Tiger Steel's heart can't even be called a yellow-grade martial arts technique. Indeed, but I heard that he is known as the number one person in the younger generation of Fire Nation. He defeated all the elites of Fire Nation with a single punch, and even the current Fire Emperor praised him greatly, conferring him the title of Marquis of Fists. And he's so strong. Everyone cried out in surprise. To be able to obtain the nod of praise from the Fire Emperor, and even be conferred the title of Marquis, Lian Xiaozhu's strength should be extraordinary. Hong Fei naturally heard this and couldn't help but feel fear. Although he was a very strong existence in the younger generation of Stone Nation, he was not qualified to attract the attention of the Stone Emperor, who would confer him the title of Marquis or something like that. You are not worthy of using fists. Lian Xiaozhu had already launched an attack. It was a Black Tiger Steel's heart, which was executed in a standard manner. However, there was an abundant air circulating around it, as if a Grandmaster of Fists had appeared and was executing a technique. Although Hong Fei used his ultimate move, he was completely unable to withstand this punch. He was instantly sent flying, lying on the side and coughing up blood. So powerful. This Hong Fei was also in the 5th layer of the Gushing Spring tier, but he couldn't even take a single punch. Lian Xiaozhu was indeed strong, living up to the Fire Emperor's praise. Brother Lian is indeed strong. I would like to ask for some advice. Someone immediately leaped onto the field. This was a young man of 23 or 24 years old. He was tall and slender, and there was a long saber hanging from his waist, exuding an astonishing sharpness. Lian Xiaozhu's eyes lit up and he said, "Since you don't use fists, I can spar with you." Fine, this guy was indeed a fist maniac. If others used fists, he would directly send them flying, but if he didn't use fists, he could spar with them. I am Hua Gao Yi, also from Fire Nation, the saber user said proudly. Everyone couldn't help but say, oh. So he was also from Fire Nation. No wonder he jumped out to spar with Lian Xiaozhu. Because this was a Dao sparring session among the martial artists of the 9 nations, No one wanted their own nation to be outdone by others. This would make them lose face, wouldn't it? Please, please. Lian Xiaozhu and Hua Gaoyi immediately began a fierce battle. Fist Qi and Saber Qi collided, and the battle became white-hot as soon as it began. Sure enough, Lian Xiaozhu only used one move, Black Tiger Steel's Heart. However, he was able to use this move with great charm. Each of his fists had a different intent realm, and its power was astonishing. Interesting. Ling Han revealed a smile. How is it interesting? Lu Yutong and the others asked one after another. Even Guang Yuan was no exception, because he also couldn't think of anything interesting. Ling Han smiled, pointed at Lian Xiaozhu, and said, he should have cultivated a strange cultivation technique that has the effect of increasing his battle prowess. However, the side effect of this cultivation technique is that he can no longer cultivate other martial techniques. This would clash with his cultivation technique. Therefore, he only uses one Black Tiger Steel's Heart, but it has 100 different intent realms. It is very wonderful. There is such a cultivation technique? Everyone was baffled. The world is so big, and there are naturally all kinds of strange cultivation techniques. Moreover, this person specializes in one fist technique, which just makes up for his weakness of not being able to cultivate martial skills. Sometimes simplicity doesn't mean mediocrity, Ling Han said unhurriedly. Mo Gao, for example, was also extremely proficient in cultivating the sword, but he didn't cultivate any sword techniques at all, yet he almost touched the heart of the sword. Simplicity didn't mean mediocrity. The young man in front of them had the same effect, but he was still far from feeling the heart of the fist. He had just embarked on this path. Ken Yi revealed a strong fighting spirit, and said, wait, I want to challenge that Hua Gaoyi. He was also a saber user, and after seeing Hua Gaoyi's gorgeous saber technique, he couldn't help but feel itchy, and just wanted to fight. Ling Han thought for a while and said, you have a chance. Hua Gaoyi's strength is not below Lian Xiaozhu's. This battle will probably end in a draw. He also clicked his tongue in wonder. The youngsters of this generation were really talented, which surprised even him. Oh. Chapter 299. Snake transforming into Flood Dragon transforming into dragon. This was a very normal path of evolution. But the problem was, flood dragons always had two horns, so what was the meaning of having a bump on your head? Were you going to turn into a unicorn? Hunyo immediately lay on the ground and opened her small mouth, revealing her white teeth as she roared. If she had hair, they would definitely be standing on end. Ling Han also revealed a vigilant expression. This large snake was the overlord of the Gourd Cave, an existence at the 9th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier. But for some reason, the feeling it gave Ling Han was even more terrifying than Aofeng just now. That's right, Hunyo also felt this way. So she immediately put on a defensive and warning stance. Just now, when Aofeng appeared, Hunyo was very calm. The large snake slowly stood up, its head continuously rising as if its body was endlessly long. When its head actually reached the same height as the valley, its entire body still didn't drill out of the layer of ice. This was really inconceivable. It was definitely at least 1,000 meters long, maybe even a few thousand meters long. Ling Han didn't understand. Could a spiritual pedestal tier beast snake grow so big? The bigger the body, the greater the power of a living being. For example, if a living being could grow to the same size as the vast lands after reaching adulthood, then he wouldn't need to cultivate at all. He could simply step on it a few times, and even if the vast lands didn't shatter, the people and beasts on it would probably all die, and only a few elites would be able to survive. But precisely because of this, the heavens would strictly limit the size of living beings. For beasts, only when their strength increased could their size increase accordingly. In the case of the spiritual pedestal tier, the maximum size should only be around 100 meters. Only the flower blossom tier could reach 1,000 meters, but it couldn't possibly exceed this number. However, this giant snake was only in the 9th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier, and not only did its size exceed 100, it even exceeded 1,000, advancing into the level of the spiritual infant tier. Added with the flesh bump on its head, it was even more strange. There had never been a snake beast that could transform into a flood dragon in the spiritual pedestal tier. Transforming into a flood dragon was something that could only be done after the heaven tier. Strange, too strange. It took a long time to describe, but this was only a matter of a breath's time. Hong, this giant snake descended from the sky, and its entire head smashed down just like that. Barbaric and violent, it used terrifying power to win. Ling Han's face turned green, and he grabbed Hunyo, who still wanted to soar into the sky and fight to her heart's content. His figure flashed, and he entered into the Black Tower. With the giant snake's power, weight, and the inertia of falling from the sky, such a huge force was enough to instantly smash him and Hunyo into meat paste, guaranteeing a complete and thorough death. This was really quite unreasonable. It didn't compete with any technique at all, and just used brute force to crush it, but not to mention it was able to completely release the giant snake's power. Strange, why do I feel a familiar scent from this giant snake? Ling Han rubbed his chin. Spiritual pedestal tier demonic beasts would have special elemental attacks, such as spitting fire, cold mist, and venom. Ling Han had even seen demonic snakes that turned all the scales on their bodies into sharp blades and shot them out. However, this giant snake didn't seem to have any intention of using its special ability at all. The moment it appeared, it fiercely smashed with its head, extremely practiced, and was a habitual offender. Ling Han looked through the Black Tower and saw that the giant snake was searching for his, and Hunyo's flesh and blood all over the ground. The giant snake's eyes revealed a blank expression, as if it didn't understand how the two of them disappeared. Extremely stupid. Ling Han found it even more strange. Being able to cultivate to the peak stage of the spiritual pedestal tier, and only a step away from crossing the line of mortals, how could its intelligence be so low? Demonic beasts possessed very high intelligence, and the higher the level, the smarter they were. Flower blossom tier demonic beasts were definitely no weaker than human sages. But why was this giant snake always so stupid? It was as if it only knew how to use its head to smash people, and was only using its instincts to fight. Fight. Ling Han made a decision. Xiao, his figure flashed, and he was already out of the Black Tower. Holding the demon birth sword in his hand, the thunder battle armor was already activated. Hong, his left hand blasted out a flash of lightning, while his right hand brandished the sword. Xiao, 7 flashes of sword chi crisscrossed. Pu, 2 attacks landed on the giant snake's body at the same time, but what surprised Ling Han was that the 7 flashes of sword chi only left a few white marks on the snake scales, while the lightning was slightly more effective, piercing through the snake scales and creating a wound on the giant snake's body. However, with the giant snake's size, this was really not painful or itchy. The giant snake was infuriated, and Hong, the snake's head, smashed down again. Ling Han hurriedly entered the Black Tower, dodging this attack. Pung, the entire valley trembled, showing this giant snake's terrifying power. Ling Han, however, laughed and said to himself, if it were another 9th layer spiritual pedestal tier, I really wouldn't be able to deal with it, but this snake is too stupid. I can exhaust it to death. He once again exited the Black Tower, and directly punched with both fists, activating the power of the thunder battle armor, turning into flashes of lightning that blasted towards the giant snake's eyes. The giant snake was stupid, but its instincts made it very likely to avoid a vital injury like the eyes, immediately turning the snake's head and dodging. Then it smashed down again, shaking the entire valley. Countless accumulated snow soared into the sky, and snowflakes filled the sky. On the other side, the sea of flames also boiled like a tide, splashing out crimson-red lava. Ling Han continuously entered and exited the Black Tower, tirelessly launching attacks on the giant snake's eyes. He only needed to succeed once, and he would be able to reap a great victory, so he was completely in no hurry. The giant snake was stupid. If Ling Han's strength was stronger, it would definitely have tunneled into the layer of ice under its instincts, and wouldn't have fought with Ling Han at all. But in its eyes, Ling Han was so weak that it only needed one smash to kill him, so how could it escape from such a smelly bug? Moreover, it was continuously hit by Ling Han. Although its skin was thick and its flesh was thick, and it only hurt a little, it completely stimulated its ferocity, and it was determined to kill Ling Han. One man and one snake, just like that, continued to wear each other down. After a few hours, the giant snake appeared to be more and more manic, constantly pounding the ground with its head as if it wanted to take the initiative. Ling Han looked for an opportunity, and in the instant that the giant snake pounded the ground, he attacked from within the Black Tower. Xiao, with a wild slash, 800 sword lights soared into the sky. It was precisely the mysterious 3000. Poo 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 poo, these sword lights all blasted at the giant snake's right eye. At this time, the giant snake's terrifying defense was fully displayed. Even if the eye was such a weak vital point, it actually didn't shatter after several hundred sword lights blasted at it. Only when the last 100 sword lights surged past did a crack finally appear on the eyeball, and then like broken porcelain, it shattered with a loud bang. A liquid rushed out like a burst dam. Under the pain, the giant snake began to writhe madly, and a huge force went on a rampage, as if the whole valley was about to be flattened. Ling Han entered the Black Tower, and immediately recovered his origin power. Now that he struck out with the mysterious 3000 with all his strength, it wouldn't exhaust all his power, but it still seemed to be 1/3 less. He crushed a few dozen origin crystals, and recovered his cultivation very quickly. Then he charged out of the Black Tower, wielding his sword, and charged in through the hole in the giant snake's eye. The demon birth sword activated 2 vein-like patterns, and sword chi crisscrossed. Ling Han didn't care about the consequences, and slashed to his heart's content. Chapter 300. Even if Zhu Wujiu didn't say anything about inspecting the goods, no one would ignore it. After all, it cost 10 origin power crystals. The carrier of origin power crystals was that special kind of crystal. It was a very common product with a large amount, which was why it was used as a container for origin power. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to withstand this kind of consumption and would be used up long ago. There wouldn't be such a large amount. The size of the crystal was standard, about the size of a finger. Rather than saying it was a piece, it would be better to say it was a stick. However, even with such a small piece of yuan power crystal, it would still take a Sea of Souls Realm warrior a month to fill it up, and that was the normal speed. Even if Sea of Souls Realm warriors used up all of their yuan power, they would have to meditate to recover completely instead of eating pellets. Otherwise, it would be considered as a waste since pellets were also very expensive. Even spiritual Sea Realm warriors could only make 12 pieces in a year, so this thing was indeed very precious. It also showed the value of 100-year-old ginseng and Ganoderma. People paid origin power crystals one after another and got a ginseng or Ganoderma. Then they hurriedly examined it. If they didn't understand, they asked the people beside them to help appraise it, and they all looked happy. It was indeed 100-year-old. I want to sell another one. I want to buy 3 even if I have money. After confirming that the ginseng and Ganoderma sold by Zhu Wujiu were genuine, everyone was very excited. They waved the origin power crystals and squeezed in like local tycoons. These origin power crystals were actually given to them by their families and forces for emergencies after they entered the North region. After all, origin power crystals were popular there, and gold and silver were only circulated among ordinary people. In the 9 nations of the desolate North, the spiritual ocean tier was the absolute mainstay, so how could they condense origin power crystals all day long? Therefore, even the great clans like the 8 great clans couldn't take out many origin power crystals, let alone normal clans. Thus, these guys threw out dozens of origin power crystals at once. They were really rich and willful. Guang Yuan shook his head and said, "If any guy dares to squander my origin power crystals like this, I will definitely kill him with my own hands." Ling Han sighed. "You speak as if you've refined origin power crystals before." I don't even have enough time to cultivate. How could I possibly waste my essence energy on something like that? Guang Yuan immediately spat out, completely disregarding his image. True, Ling Han was now an earth-grade alchemist, and Guang Yuan's status was who knew how much lower than his. Thus, he naturally acted like a ruffian, and did not need to put on the airs of a powerful cultivator. Everyone chuckled. Although Guang Yuan was rough, he was also an interesting person. The crowd crowded around Zhu Wujiu, and the scene was extremely lively. Some of them didn't even have 10 pieces of origin crystals on them, so they tried to bargain with Zhu Wujiu. Some of them were richer and more overbearing, fearing that the ginseng and Ganoderma would be sold out, so they said they were willing to increase the price and sell the ginseng to him first. Cheng Fei Jun's expression became darker and darker. The purpose of him organizing the martial art tea party was to pick out outstanding talents with potential for Luo Jifeng to choose from. It was not for Ling Han to sell his wares. He couldn't help but stand up. reminding everyone that it was almost time for the sparring to continue. But no one paid any attention to him, because there could only be one first place in the martial art tea party, and there was only one prize. Having seen the skills of the others just now, he knew that there were only a few who could compete for the first place, and he was not fated to win. Since that was the case, why not focus on the treasures that could be seen? Chung Fei-jun almost cursed it out loud. This tea party was hosted by him, and he was a black-grade high-level alchemist. A bunch of mere gushing spring-tier martial artists actually dared to not give him face? But with Ling Han present, he, a black-grade high-level alchemist, was really nothing much. So what if they didn't give him face? Wasn't there still Grandmaster Ling? This damned Ling Han, was he born to go against him? Chung Fei-jun sat down again, his eyes filled with fury, and he hated Luo Jifeng even more. This old guy said he wanted to get rid of Ling Han, but why hadn't there been any movement for a few days, allowing Ling Han to run around without rhyme or reason? After another hour or so, Zhu Wujiu finally sold out the basket of spirit medicine, but there were still many people waving their origin power crystals, wanting to spend. He walked towards Ling Han, and when he saw Ling Han nod, he said, "Friends who didn't manage to buy anything, don't worry. Later, you can come to the Pleasant Arrival Tavern's 7th courtyard to find me. There's also a large supply of ginseng and Ganoderma that are also 100 years old. I guarantee that everyone will be satisfied." With these words, only those who didn't manage to buy anything were willing to leave. But everyone was shocked. They had already sold out a basket of spirit medicine, and there was actually still more? It had to be known that these weren't cabbages that could be bought as many as one wanted, but were 100-year-old ginseng and Ganoderma. An ordinary person's lifespan was only a mere 100 years. Now the deep mountains were filled with herb gatherers, and spirit medicine was becoming fewer and fewer. Occasionally picking 100-year-old ginseng was enough to burn incense, and now they were actually selling it in baskets, and there was still more? Could it be that they had dug out an ancient herb garden? Chung Fei-jun's expression was similarly gloomy, and there was even stronger greed. He also thought that Ling Han had obtained an ancient herb garden, and it was left behind by an alchemy grandmaster, which was why Ling Han had obtained the inheritance and become an earth-grade alchemist at such a young age. If he could obtain it, instantly, his heart became fiery, and an endless desire was born, causing him to not hesitate to do some risky things out of desperation. "Ling Han, that brat's killing intent has been aroused," Guang Yuan said to Ling Han. Ling Han smiled lightly and said, "No matter, he's just a jumping clown. Originally I didn't care, but since he wants to seek death, then I'll send him on his way. I'll leave this task to Big Brother Guang." "Pooh," Guang Yuan instantly spurted out and faintly said, "That guy is a black-grade high-level alchemist, and if I kill him, then all the alchemists in the world will see me as a thorn in their side. Make it clean. He's only in the 7th layer of the gushing spring tier, and with Big Brother Guang's cultivation that's almost at the 8th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, you'll definitely be able to suppress him with one hand, absolutely without anyone noticing," Ling Han said with a smile. Guang Yuan obtained the complete large Sun Heaven Heart scripture, and with Ling Han's supply of alchemical pills, his cultivation experienced a small explosion, and he already reached the peak stage of the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, which even he himself didn't dare to believe. "All right, give this guy to me," Guang Yuan said through gritted teeth. He had received so many benefits from Ling Han, yet he had never truly put in any effort for Ling Han, so he felt really apologetic in his heart. Ling Han nodded. He really didn't take Chung Fei-jun to heart, but that Luo Jifeng, because he almost blinded him, he never went to steal from him again, so he didn't have a deep understanding of this person. The old guy's aura gave him a feeling of déjà vu, but he couldn't remember what it was. Chapter 301. The ginseng sale came to an end, and the martial art tea party naturally continued. However, quite a few people were thinking about the 100-year-old ginseng and Ganoderma, so they naturally appeared dispirited, causing the excitement on the scene to weaken greatly. Fortunately, Lian Xiaozhu by Yuquan and the others once again went up to exchange pointers. Their spectacular performance redeemed quite a bit, winning frequent cheers from the crowd, especially the martial artists from their own country. When their own country's geniuses showed their prowess and defeated the experts of other countries, they were all extremely excited. In the end, with nations as a unit, a total of 8 strongest emerged. They were Lian Xiu Zhu Huagao Yi Bai Yuquan Yuxinghua Zhonghiguang Chu Shui Yuan Lianshan and Qinyi. Zhu Wujiu was a bit inexperienced, after all, and only had the cultivation of the 5th layer of the gushing spring tier. Moreover, he could only rely on the silver moon body, and his own talent in martial art was barely passable. Now, he'd only formed 2 flashes of sword qi, still a distance away from the title of young king. In the 9 nations of the desolate north, each nation had one. Only Yun Nation didn't have a single genius selected, which made all the martial artists of Yun Nation blush. However, what could they do if their skills were inferior? Martial arts spoke with strength. Ling Han, if you go up, you can fight all 8 of them by yourself, Lu Yutong said, very displeased. The first in the desolate north should be her lover no matter what. That's right. On this point, Li Sichan naturally stood in the same trench as Lu Yutong. Hu Niu patted her chest and said, Niu will fight for Ling Han and take first place. As she spoke, she was about to jump down from the stage, scaring Qinyi so much that his face instantly paled. He'd suffered at the hands of the little girl, and that speed was unfathomable for gushing spring-tier martial artists. Unexpectedly, even Yen Tianzhao suffered a great loss, and had no choice but to unleash a powerful move, using strange silk threads to trap the little girl, and only then did he win. This could also be said to be because the little girl had not been on guard. Moreover, Hu Niu's strength had obviously increased after this, and now she was already in the 5th layer of gushing spring tier. If they were to fight again, it would be hard to say who would win. No matter if it was Ling Han or Hu Niu, as long as these 2 monsters entered the field, they would definitely be invincible in gushing spring tier. Even low-level spiritual ocean tier martial artists could only be swept aside by them. Ling Han laughed heartily and said, Niu, don't scare little Ye. Can't you see that his face is pale? When everyone heard this, it was true, and they couldn't help but laugh, because it was really rare to see Qinyi lose his composure like this. This youngster had always been cold and detached. Who asked Hu Niu to be small and act without any scruples? Even Qinyi would have a headache if he saw her. Chang Feijun invited Qinyi and the rest of the 8 up, and arranged their respective opponents. It just so happened that 8 would advance to 4, 4 would advance to 2, and finally the strongest would be decided, successfully concluding today's martial art tea party. The first must be our Fire Nation's Lian Xiuzhu. Bullshit. In front of our Stone Kingdom's Huagaoi. Everything else is trash. Go go go. Our Wind Nation's Bai Yuquan is here. Who's his match? The original individual honor had already risen to the national level, and everyone was cheering for their country's victorious prodigy. Only the Cloud Nation didn't have anyone fighting their way out, which made everyone's expressions unsightly. Lu Yutong and Li Sichan were also very displeased. The one in the limelight should have been Ling Han. Once he came out, who could be his match? The 4 matches of the 8-4 should have been carried out one by one, but who asked Zhu Wujiu to call out midway, delaying a lot of time? Now only 4 matches were carried out together. Ping ping pang pang, the 8 people divided into 4 groups to fight. The scene was extremely intense, and instantly attracted everyone's attention. From time to time, people would exclaim in surprise and cheer for their performance. It really wasn't a wasted trip. Being able to watch such an exciting match also made many arrogant and complacent youngsters put away their arrogance. It turned out that not only did their own country have a genius that they could only look up to, other countries also had one. Ha 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 ha, the mongrels of the desolate north actually dare to hold some martial art tea party and talk nonsense about martial art. What a joke! An ear-piercing voice rang out, and a white-clothed youngster walked over with large strides, a disdainful expression on his face. Who is it? Everyone turned their heads, and even Qinyi and the others stopped fighting. This person spoke of the desolate north, striking down all the people of the 9 nations. The white-clothed youngster was very handsome, and the expression on his face was also very arrogant, giving people the urge to raise their fists and punch him. He was extremely good at drawing hatred. There was a sword hanging on both of his waists. Usually they were dual swords, which was rather rare. He walked over with large strides and said, "Monkeys of the desolate north, go back to where you came from. The north region isn't a place you can go." "Who are you? Is it any of your business?" someone shouted. The white-clothed youngster smiled proudly and said, I forgot to introduce myself. AI, announcing my name in front of you mongrels is practically an insult to me, Bao Xian ran. Forget it, I won't announce my name. Pooh, many people instantly laughed out loud. You said you wouldn't announce your name but you already did. Was your intelligence worrying? The one with the surname Bao, get lost. Someone humphed. From this Bao Xian ran's tone, he should be from a force of the North region, and to the desolate North, the North region was the true holy land of martial art. Thus, even if Bao Xian ran had spoken rudely first, everyone still chose to tolerate him. Bao Xian ran picked his ears and said, "Who was the one who told me to get lost just now? Get out here and let me have my way, and I'll break all your teeth." So what if I said it? A tall and sturdy youngster stood out. He had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear, and his height was close to 2 meters. His skin was dark, and he looked like a violent bear. Pung! Everyone's eyes blurred, and they saw that Bao Xian ran had already disappeared from his original spot. His fist smashed onto that violent bear's face, directly sending that person flying. That tall and sturdy youngster still wanted to stand up, but when he was halfway up, his entire head actually exploded, and his headless body instantly collapsed onto the ground, blood splattering all over the ground. For a moment there was absolute silence. But after a mere instant, the crowd became enraged, and all wanted to swallow this Bao Xian ran alive. You're strong, so if you win, then so be it. Why do you have to be so lethal? I was a bit too heavy-handed. I originally only wanted to knock out a mouthful of teeth. But forget it, those who insulted me deserve to die. Bao Xian ran said calmly, and then picked his ears with his fingers. Bao Xian ran said calmly, then dug his ear with his finger. Is there any other trash who wants to make a move? Everyone was silent. Although that person just now was only in the poly tier, Bao Xian ran's sudden attack was incredibly shocking, causing most gushing spring tier martial artists to be unable to capture its trajectory. If they were to really face him head-on, it would probably be a disaster. Moreover, this person's attack was so ruthless, so in a situation where there was no chance of victory, there was really no one who dared to rashly come down and fight with him. Brother Bao, let me come down to experience your strength. Zhong Higuang strode down the stage. Oh, it's just the 8 of you competing for the title of the strongest prodigy of the younger generation. I'm going to die of laughter. You're just a few mongrels, and you actually have the delusion of claiming to be number 1? You really don't know what you're talking about. Bao Xian ran sneered, and mocked without holding back. Sir, have you had enough? Zhong Higuang was also furious, and removed the whip that was coiled around his waist. Bao Xian ran picked his ear, then blew on his finger and said, how about this, I'll use 1 finger, and if I can't kill you within 3 moves, I'll kneel on the ground and call you grandfather. Arrogant, he was really too arrogant. He wanted to fight against one of the 8 great prodigies of the desolate North with 1 finger, and kill him within 3 moves. He was really looking down on others. Putting aside whether he could win or not, to kill at every turn, he was really looking down on the 9 nations of the desolate North, wasn't he? Chapter 302. Brother Zhong, kill him. Yes, kill him. We, the 9 nations of the desolate North, are not to be trifled with. The crowd became enraged, but Chung Feijun was silent. He recognized the symbol on Bao Xian ran's sleeves. This was a disciple of a large sect, so it was not worthwhile for him to offend him. Anyway, it was just Zhong Higuang, so if he died, then so be it. There were still many geniuses here, so 1 less wouldn't matter. Ling Han frowned and said, Zhong Higuang is in trouble. Why? Lu Yutong and Li Xichan both asked in shock. Because that brat is in the spiritual ocean tier, and in the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Guang Yuan continued. What? Lu Yutong and Li Xichan both revealed shocked expressions. A 20-something spiritual ocean tier martial artist. What a joke, it was impossible to find one in Rain Country. There indeed appeared recently, and Feng Yan was one. And Yin Tianzhao was even younger, only 15 years old. But normally, one had to be over 30 to cross into the spiritual ocean tier. Even reaching the gushing spring tier at 30 years old was already quite good. Could it be that the people of the North region were all so powerful that any random person that came out was a martial art genius? Then this fight cannot be fought. Zhu Wujiu stood up abruptly. This was an absolutely unfair fight. Ling Han nodded and said, "Go stop it and have Qin Yi come back." Yes. Zhu Wujiu hurriedly received the order and left, but it was already too late. Zhong Higuang was already unable to restrain his anger, and with a wave of his whip, he lashed out at Bao Exai and ran. Shua, the long whip turned into a spirit snake, and as origin power surged, layers of ripples appeared in the air, extremely shocking. Bao Exai ran only smiled coldly, and with the point of his left little finger, he pointed at the middle of the long whip with incredible accuracy. An even stronger wave of origin power struck, and the long whip instantly seemed to be hit where it hurt, immediately softening. Zhong Higuang was shocked, and was just about to wave his whip to regroup, but Bao Exai had already flown out. His speed was extremely fast. With a single move of his feet, he had already appeared in front of Zhong Higuang and grinned. Zhong Higuang was extremely panic-stricken, and was about to abandon his whip to attack when Bao Exai flicked a finger at his forehead. With a paw, his entire body was instantly sent flying, and when he was in midair, his head suddenly exploded, red and white matter splattering everywhere. Everyone trembled in fear. That was one of the strongest geniuses in the 9 nations of the desolate north, yet he was killed like a dog. How could they accept this? Could it be that the north region was filled with this kind of monsters? Then why the hell would they go to the Winter Moon sect? They would definitely have to experience fierce competition to enter the sect, and they would all die from a casual attack. They had come out to pursue a higher realm of martial art, not to die. For a time, many people had the thought of retreating. Don't you guys think that a person's head is the most beautiful when it explodes? Bao Exai said with a hint of intoxication. Then his voice became cold and he said, "You really surprise me. You dogs of the desolate north can actually be so beautiful when you die. Truly inconceivable." This was not praise. Everyone was furious, but when they thought of the others' terrifying strength, none of them dared to speak out loud. "You're not in the gushing spring tier," Chu Shuai said. Zhong Higuang was in the 9th spring of the gushing spring tier, and no gushing spring tier warrior could kill him in 2 moves. Only spiritual ocean tier warriors had such qualifications. Pa Bao Exai began clapping his hands, and said with a smile, "Finally there's a smart person. I obviously can't be in the gushing spring tier. A genius like me is already 25 years old. How could I still be trash in the gushing spring tier? Spiritual ocean tier," everyone exclaimed in shock, and at the same time became extremely furious. "You, an elite of the spiritual ocean tier, came to torment and kill a gushing spring tier warrior. What did this mean?" Bao Exai stepped down and a pattern opened up, forming a light green symbol. Releasing the will of martial art was the sign of the spiritual ocean tier. "Sir, you've gone too far. You're a dignified spiritual ocean tier warrior, yet you hide your cultivation level and kill people at every turn. Don't you think you've gone too far?" Bai Yuquan said in a powerful and resonant voice. "Well said, well said." Everyone cheered for him. Even a spiritual ocean tier warrior couldn't bully others like this. Not to mention it wasn't as if there were no spiritual ocean tier warriors in the 9 nations of the desolate north. Bao Exai picked his ears and said, "What do you mean by going too far? I'm about the same age as you guys and my cultivation level is higher than yours, and my strength is stronger than yours. This is because my talent is higher and you guys are just trash. As trash, you should be prepared to be stepped on by me. Too despicable. Let's attack together. At most, a few dozen of us will die, but we have to kill him no matter what. That's right, we, the 9 nations of the desolate north, are not to be trifled with." Bao Exai provocation finally caused everyone to successfully suppress their fear, and only endless fury remained. They had to kill this arrogant guy no matter what to vent their anger. "Oh, kill me!" Bao Exai sneered, raised his left hand high up, and circled around everyone. He said, "Trash, have you noticed this symbol? This is the Cold Water Sect's armband, and I am a disciple of the Cold Water Sect. Putting aside whether you guys can kill me or not, even if you can, not only will you guys die, the clans behind you will die, and your country will also be destroyed. Because I am a disciple of the Cold Water Sect. Do you understand, you trash?" Bao Exai proudly put down his left hand. "Now, is there any trash that refuses to accept this?" For a moment the crowd fell silent once again. A spiritual ocean tier warrior was obviously nothing much. United as one, they could fight to the death no matter what. However, the cold water sect could be called a sect, and they had at least a spiritual infant tier elite overseeing it. That was an unimaginable power. No matter how hot-blooded one was, they still had to consider the clans behind them in their country. Attracting a colossus like the cold water sect, what kind of disaster was that? Now all of you scram back to your kennels. Whoever dares to leave the fallen moon gorge, I'll behead him, Bao Xian Ran said coldly. This time, everyone finally knew that he was purposely here to stop them from entering the north region. At this critical juncture, there were only two possibilities. The first was that Bao Xian Ran didn't want them to participate in tomorrow's auction, and the second was that he didn't want them to participate in the Winter Moon Sect's entrance examination. Or both were possible. What are you still hesitating for? Bao Xian Ran glared. His own strength was enough to crush them, and added with the colossus that was the cold water sect standing behind him, he naturally had the confidence to be arrogant. Damn it! Everyone clenched their fists tightly, so much so that their bones made cracking sounds. Could it be that so many of them could only return home with their tails between their legs because of a young man? That's right, I seem to have heard just now that there were many 100-year-old Ginseng and Lingji here. Bao Xian Ran revealed a smile, greed flashing past his eyes. Before you leave the Ginseng, Lingji and Origin power crystals behind. If anyone dares to hide them, kill without mercy. The crowd was in an uproar. Chapter 303. Ling Han's eyes narrowed. The technique that the young man used just now was precisely Mysterious 3000. However, the young man advanced into the Flower Blossom tier, so a casual attack had supreme power, instantly killing two elites in the 9th layer of the Spiritual Pedestal tier. Thus, just from this attack, it was completely impossible to judge the young man's attainments in Mysterious 3000, which was also the best representation of a swordsman's strength on the path of the sword. Mysterious 3000 was propelled by sword chi, and the more sword chi cultivated, the more sword lights shot out, and the greater the power. In the sky, the young man said indifferently, "Now, has anyone answered my question? I'll speak. Fairy Zhu should have gone deep into the forest, firstly to search for crimson-red chilling ice grass, and secondly to fight for the heavenly Lux stone," someone hurriedly said in a trembling voice. The young man revealed a smile and said, "Heavenly Lux stone. Xian Air is still in the spiritual pedestal tier, so if she refined a piece of heavenly Lux stone and broke through to the flower blossom tier in the future, it would be greatly beneficial to her." He paused and then said, "Jiming, do you think that if I took the heavenly Lux stone and gave it to Xian Air, would she be very happy?" Tong Jiming revealed an envious expression. Heavenly Lux stone was the most precious treasure for martial artists under the flower blossom tier. He was now in the 9th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier, and if he could fuse with a piece of heavenly Lux stone TSK. However, he immediately put away this envy, and said respectfully, "Fairy Zhu would definitely be extremely happy." Ha 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 ha. The young man laughed loudly. "Alright, then I'll make an exception and play with the people here." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left. With each step he drew a sword diagram dazzling like flowers. Tong Jiming sneered at everyone and hurriedly followed. Although he couldn't fly, the speed of a spiritual pedestal tier elite wasn't slow either. He continuously passed through the treetops, chasing after the young man. Only now did everyone let out a sigh of relief. Many people even sat on the ground drenched in sweat. However, not everyone was so shocked by the young man that they lost their fighting spirit. Shen Zhongcheng's eyes were fixed on the place where the young man disappeared, his right hand tightly gripping his sword, exuding endless fighting spirit. Ling Han was no exception, fighting spirit burning in his heart. This young man was probably comparable to the Sword Emperor back then. Regrettably, in his last life, he focused on alchemy and only pursued tier in martial arts, so he didn't compete with the 6 heaven-tier emperors. But in this life, his regrets could be made up for. That young man's talent and comprehension of sword arts were both extremely shocking, just like the second Sword Emperor. Competing with such a prodigy, Ling Han was full of fighting spirit. "I know who that person is," someone suddenly exclaimed. I've heard before that when an elite from the Heaven Sword sect came to the North region to travel, he fell in love with Fairy Zhu at first sight, and had the intention of inviting her to the Heaven Sword sect. It's this person, the second sword in the world, Yao Huiyu. As soon as the words were spoken, cries of surprise were instantly heard. What kind of person was this, actually daring to claim to be the second sword in the world, not afraid of losing his tongue? Yao Huiyu's strength was indeed very strong. Flower blossom tier cultivators at his age were practically invincible, so to claim the second in the world was really shameless. How many swordsmen were there in the world? Could it be that soul tier and deity transformation tier swordsmen were inferior to him? I heard that Yao Huiyu originally wanted to claim the title of the best sword in the world, but in order to express his respect to those old seniors of the Heaven Sword sect, he retreated to the title of second. The second in the world, that's too modest. However, he's already in the flower blossom tier in his 20s. In his age group, the second in the world should be fully deserving of the title. Heavens, is there really such a huge gap between the level of martial arts in our North region and the Middle State? It's said that the Middle State is the holy land of martial arts, and it's indeed true. Everyone sighed ruefully. In the past, they were foolish and arrogant, but when they saw true elites and geniuses, only then did they realize that the world was far larger than they imagined. However, the two ninth-layer spiritual pedestal tier elites were killed, and this stronghold was no longer safe. Encountering an attack from a spiritual pedestal tier demonic beast, it was extremely possible that it would be instantly destroyed. Thus, everyone set out on their way, either to continue gathering herbs and hunting demonic beasts, or to head to other strongholds. Ling Han also set out towards the core area of the forest. He couldn't help but sigh ruefully. Previously, he felt that his cultivation was already fast enough, but compared to Yao Huiyu, although his speed wasn't considered slow, it couldn't be said to be much faster. After all, a great sect with 10,000 years of history like the Heaven Sword sect had abundant cultivation resources that normal forces couldn't compare to. Concentrating them on a few genius disciples, then the cultivation of Yao Huiyu and the others naturally wouldn't be slower than Ling Han's. However, after breaking through to the flower blossom tier, there were pitifully few spirit medicines of level 6 and above. Even an ancient great sect like the Heaven Sword sect would feel that they were poor, and in terms of the cultivation of their disciples, they couldn't be faster. And Ling Han didn't need to feel inferior. How long had it been since he started cultivating? It was only a little over a year, and he had already soared from the second layer of body refining tier to the fourth layer of the spiritual ocean tier. How could this kind of cultivation speed compare to Yao Huiyu's in the past? After all, he never needed to worry about comprehension of cultivation level. However, now that Yao Huiyi Aofeng and the others have appeared, the difficulty of me wanting to obtain the crimson red chilling ice grass and the heavenly luck stone has increased considerably. Ling Han stroked his chin. He was determined to obtain these two things, but from now on there were many difficulties. Ling Han, Hunyo suddenly ran towards a certain direction. Ling Han followed, and saw that Hunyo had stopped beside a plant. This plant was completely crimson red, as if it was burning. Fiery sun grass. Ling Han was astounded. He really didn't mean to. This time he didn't come to the Dark Devil Forest for the fiery sun grass, but he actually bumped into it while walking. What kind of luck was this? No, it wasn't that his luck was good, but rather that Hunyo seemed to have the ability to find medicinal ingredients. This wasn't bad, and his chances of obtaining the crimson red chilling ice grass increased slightly. As long as he succeeded first, then he could directly hide in the Black Tower. Who cared how many sword strikes you had in the world? Nothing would be of any use. Since he had encountered it, there was naturally no reason for him to miss it. Ling Han dug up the fiery sungrass with its roots, planning to transplant it into the Black Tower. This kind of spirit medicine needed to grow for 100 years before it would blossom and bear seeds, but in the Black Tower, this process could be completed in a month. Thus, he plucked a stalk of fiery sun grass, which meant that in a few months' time, this kind of spirit medicine would be as plentiful as cabbages. If I really have to return to the Winter Moon sect, I'll be able to report back, Ling Han said with a smile, but his entire body immediately stood on end, feeling a strong sense of danger. As expected of the person who destroyed my Sea Breeze City's stronghold, his senses are really shockingly sharp. An aged voice was heard from behind him. It was like the sound of metal rubbing against each other, making one feel so uncomfortable that they wanted to cover their ears. Ling Han slowly turned around, only to see a skinny old man standing soundlessly behind him. He held a red walking stick in his hand, and his waist was bent, looking very old. Elder Zhou Yun, right? He revealed a smile. Do you flower blossom tier warriors all have the habit of acting like ghosts? Appearing behind others without a sound? Aren't you afraid of scaring them? Chapter 304. What a powerful move. It instantly restrained the two of them. Everyone was originally cheering, but when they saw this scene, all of them felt despair. Bao Xian Ran was already powerful enough, but now he actually had an even more powerful spiritual tool in his hands. Who else could be a match for this flag? It was obvious that this was a spiritual tool. Once the will of martial art was awakened, the chill would be sealed in ice. Who would be able to get close? It was said that the sect guarding treasure of the Cold Water School was called the Cold Water Flag. Once it was activated, it would truly seal 1,000 kilometers in ice. It was extremely terrifying. This flag was only an imitation, so its might was far from being able to compare with the real Cold Water Flag. Was it still not enough to suppress two gushing spring-tier martial artists? Bao Xian Ran made a pay sound. A little girl actually needed him to sacrifice a command flag in order to subdue her. It was really quite embarrassing. Cheng Fei-jun, on the other hand, revealed a cold smile. He had initially wanted to rely on Luo Jifeng to finish off Ling Han, but the other party had actually not succeeded even after so many days. This caused him to silently curse Luo Jifeng as useless. But now Bao Xian Ran was actually going to help him fulfill his wish, causing him to want to run over and hug Bao Xian Ran, giving him a fierce kiss. What a good person! Ka ka ka. At this moment a change occurred. A large number of spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the layer of ice surrounding Ling Han. It could be seen that there was a ball of scarlet flames circulating around his body, and it had already melted a hole in the ice. Deviant flame Cheng Fei-jun's eyes immediately turned red. He had possessed a strange flame before, so even though he was so far away, he could feel that the strange flame had a trace of familiarity, yet it was also completely different. His own deviant flame had already been devoured by Ling Han's deviant flame. It was obvious that this strange flame was more powerful. It was inevitable that two strange flames had fused together. I want. Cheng Fei-jun shouted in his heart. To be able to melt even the ice seal of the command flag. The power of the strange flame was truly astonishing. And the sound of ka 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 did not come from Ling Han's layer of ice, but from Hu Niu's. The little girl's mouth was wide open as she chewed continuously, crushing the ice and swallowing it at an incredible speed. In just a short while, her little head had already popped out, and the rest of her body was also rapidly liberating. Damn, what kind of foodie is this? He can even eat this kind of ice seal. Bao Xian Ran's face twitched. These two fuck you monsters, especially Hu Niu. What kind of teeth did she have? His killing intent immediately surged, and his eyes locked onto Hu Niu. Now that she had not escaped, he could very easily kill her. Clang, the two swords at his waist were unsheathed, cold as water. Hey, have you forgotten that you still have me? Ling Han smiled faintly. Trash in the first layer of the gushing spring tier. I'll kill you first, then kill this little girl. Bao Xian Ran's figure flew like the wind, charging towards Ling Han. His two swords slashed together and hong, the will of martial art circulated, and the sky was filled with ice and snow. This was not an illusion but real ice and snow. After reaching the Sea of Soul's realm, the will of martial art could be released, which could affect heaven and earth and form physical attacks. On every piece of ice and snow, there was a small glowing vein-like pattern that possessed terrifying destructive power. Bao Xian Ran had previously underestimated Ling Han, who was able to easily escape from the ice seal of the flag. This was worthy of him killing. Ling Han drew his sword and activated the four-season sword technique. The concepts of spring, summer, autumn and winter circulated, forming a cycle of heaven and earth. Bao Xian Ran's attack contained the will of martial art, so it was obviously stronger, but Ling Han's power was not much weaker, and added with the fact that the four-season sword technique was a black-grade high-level martial arts technique, its power was extraordinarily great, and it very well compensated for the lack of will of martial art. Hong hong hong. The two of them continued to exchange blows, and for a moment it was hard to determine who had the upper hand. Quick, pinch me, am I dreaming? Why is it that a guy in the first layer of the gushing spring tier is exchanging blows with a spiritual ocean tier warrior? Someone mumbled. My eyes must be blurred, haha, how is this possible? Damn, I'm going crazy, is this really gushing spring tier? Seeing this scene, aside from the martial artists of Rain Country, the others all cried out as if they had gone mad, holding their heads in their hands. This was too surreal. A mere martial artist in the first layer of the gushing spring tier could actually fight a spiritual ocean tier warrior head-on, and not be at a disadvantage. It was practically a dream. Although Hunyo was also in the gushing spring tier, at least she didn't fight Bao Xi and ran head-on and won with speed, which was at least acceptable. But Ling Han definitely had the aura of the first layer of the gushing spring tier. Yet he could fight a martial artist in the fifth layer of the spiritual ocean tier head-on, practically blinding their dog eyes. A gushing spring tier could be this strong? Not only Ling Han but also Hunyo. The two of them did not fall into a disadvantage when fighting against Bao Xi and Ran, perfectly illustrating what was called a monster, what was called a freak. You guys still don't know, right? He's Ling Han, someone from Rain Country said. What? He's Grandmaster Ling, an Earth-grade alchemist? That's right. How is this possible? He was only 16 or 17 years old when he went up. I'm really going crazy. A 16 or 17-year-old youngster can not only fight a spiritual ocean tier warrior head-on, but is also an Earth-grade alchemist. I've always been called a genius, but compared to him I seem like an idiot. I'm also an idiot. We're both idiots. Everyone sighed. At first, they had thought very highly of themselves, always feeling that they were among the best of the younger generation, but only now did they realize how narrow-minded and arrogant they had been. On the other side, Hunyo had naturally bitten out of the ice seal, but seeing that Ling Han and Bao Xi and Ran were fighting fiercely, she did not rush up to fight. She had a strong sensitivity towards battles, and knew that Ling Han had not fully displayed his strength. He could definitely win, so naturally she did not interfere. Bao Xi and Ran was shocked. He was a genuine martial artist in the fifth layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and his opponent was a genuine martial artist in the first layer of the gushing spring tier. But his battle prowess was not the slightest bit inferior to his, so how could he accept this? If his opponent also reached the spiritual ocean tier, then wouldn't he be able to instantly kill him with a single move? No, he definitely could not allow this kind of genius to continue living. He leaped up, intending to activate the flag and seal Ling Han in ice, then easily kill him. You won a second time? Ling Han smirked coldly. The mysterious 3000 was already ready to be used, and this powerful move only needed the time of 2 or 3 breaths to be prepared. Very quickly, one of Bao Xi and Ran's hands had already touched the flag. He was going to pull out the flag and use it as a weapon to sweep at Ling Han. If he was swept by it, Ling Han would first be sealed in ice, then be forcibly shattered by the tyrannical power. Then he would naturally be thoroughly dead. Hong, for flashes of sword light lit up at the same time. One was a real sword and the other 3 were sword chi. Then they formed a total of 400 flashes of sword light that shot towards Bao Xi and Ran. Bao Xi and Ran's eyes emitted extreme shock and terror, and he hurriedly waved the flag to parry. Pu sword light scattered, shaking the heavens and earth. Bao Xi and Ran staggered backwards, his body covered in wounds, many of which were deep to the bone, revealing the ghastly white bones. His entire person was completely unrecognizable. However, to be able to withstand the mysterious 3000 and not die, he could be considered to have some ability. The battle flag blocked most of the attack, or else he would still have died. Phone reading was more refreshing. Chapter 305. This was too much. Not only did he chase them back to the desolate north, he even wanted to rob them. Grandmaster Chung, aren't you going to say a few words? Someone asked Chung Fei-jun. He was the organizer of this martial art tea party. Now that something like this happened, was the host going to keep sitting? Being pointed at like this, Chung Fei-jun could only stand up and say, Bao Xi and Ran, this is the Falling Moon Gorge, the territory of my Star Brilliance Palace Hall. Is it really good for you to come here and show off? Huh, a black-grade high-level alchemist? Bao Xian Ran's gaze swept over, and he couldn't help but pick his ear. You can't be a fake, right? You're only a few years older than me. How did you become a black-grade high-level alchemist? There were 3 silver badges hanging on the other's chest, so he naturally wouldn't be ignorant. Cheng Fei-jun's expression instantly darkened. Was everyone looking down on him now? He snorted and said, I'm Cheng Fei-jun, leave this town immediately, or else the Star Defense Force will expel you. Hearing this, everyone felt vexed. They were being stepped on, yet they could only ask the other to leave. How hateful. Is that so? Bao Xian Ran smiled faintly, and casually took out a small flag, sticking it into the ground. Xiao, this flag actually grew with the wind, turning into a large flag that was at least 10 meters tall. A river was drawn on the flag, and it was surrounded by pure white snow. Just a glance was enough to make one's whole body shiver, as if they'd entered a world of ice and snow. No, this wasn't a feeling, it was really so. One could clearly feel that the surrounding temperature had sharply dropped, and it was continuously dropping. The flag of the cold water sect. Cheng Fei-jun exclaimed, his expression extremely ugly. Bao Xian Ran laughed and said, that's right, my sect wants to borrow this place to do something. I hope Grandmaster Cheng will give me some face, or else, don't blame my sect for not giving you face. Cheng Fei-jun's chest rose and fell rapidly, showing the struggle in his heart, but in the end he still sat down. This martial art tea party was held in his own name, and had nothing to do with the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. Thus, he could not use the name of the Alchemist Society. Black-grade high-level alchemists were indeed very awesome, and even large sects did not dare to kill them, but that did not mean that the Alchemist Society would definitely give them face. Bao Xian Ran could totally ignore him. Could it be that he would dare to run to the cold water sect to protest? Seeing that even Cheng Fei-jun was scared, everyone despaired. Could it be that they, a few thousand people, were going to be robbed by a single person, even if this person was in the spiritual ocean tier? Run. In any case, this guy was alone. If everyone ran together, how could he stop them? You can't escape. Bao Xian Ran broke into a smile. This is the command flag of our sect. Once it is unfurled, the area within a radius of 1 li will be sealed. Without my permission, no one can even think of leaving. Now, obediently hand over the item, he said coldly. He had come under the orders of his master to stop the people here from entering the North region to participate in the entrance exam of the Winter Moon sect. That was because the Cold Water sect and the Winter Moon sect were not on good terms, so if he could weaken the other party a little, or even annoy the other party a little, it would be good. However, after coming here, he actually discovered that there was still a large amount of 100-year-old ginseng and Ganoderma appearing here, which instantly made him overjoyed. This time he was going to make a huge fortune. Grandmaster Ling, we can only rely on you now. Qi Yongyi and the others all gathered around him. Grandmaster Ling, beat that guy to death. Right, that guy is too despicable. Everyone said one after another. There was an earth-grade alchemist here, and even if the sect master of the cold water sect came personally, he would have to give him some face. Just like how the spiritual pedestal tier was mortal and the flower blossom tier was immortal, once an alchemist level surpassed earth grade, their status would also soar, and it was not something that a black-grade high-level alchemist could compare with. Moreover, Ling Han's battle prowess was publicly acknowledged by everyone, consecutively defeating Feng Yan and Yan Tianzhao. He was practically freakish. Ling Han could not help but laugh and said, "Didn't you guys not allow me to make a move?" Everyone was embarrassed. Previously, they had hoped that Ling Han would not make a move, and only wanted to obtain the first place in the martial art tea party. But now an outsider had come, and with the power of the spiritual ocean tier, they could only ask Ling Han to come out and suppress him. Lu Yutong and Li Xichan also began to encourage from the side. If Ling Han stood out at this moment and defeated Bao Xian Ran in an invincible manner, then it would be equivalent to establishing his position as the first person in the younger generation of the 9 nations of the desolate north. They naturally hoped that their beloved could win such a good reputation. Ling Han smiled and stood up. It couldn't be helped. Bao Xian Ran wanted to rob them, and this created a direct conflict of interest with Ling Han. There was nothing much to say about wanting to steal his things. He would just kill him. Ling Han's killing intent circulated. This wasn't Rain Country, where there was the Rain Emperor to hold him back. Moreover, he had now become an Earth-grade alchemist, and in terms of status he was even above the Rain Emperor. If he wanted to kill someone, who could stop him? "You want to steal my things?" Ling Han asked as he walked in front of Bao Xi and ran. Meanwhile, Hunyao grabbed onto the corner of Ling Han's clothes and stood at the side. She could not help but bare her teeth, wanting to steal Ling Han's things. Ling Han was Niu's, so Ling Han's things were naturally Niu's as well, so what you wanted to steal was Niu's things. Hunyao was very angry. "Trash in the first layer of gushing spring tear." Bao Xian ran sneered. "Since when did trash in the first layer of gushing spring tear dare to stand in front of me and speak? Hurry up and kneel." He shouted lightly, and the sound wave took form, vibrating towards Ling Han. He had not cultivated martial arts techniques that specialized in sound, but with his cultivation level in the spiritual ocean tier, this shout was still like a lion's roar, capable of shattering the skin, flesh, blood, and bones of a gushing spring tier cultivator. Ling Han had not made a move yet, but Hunyao had already moved first. Her small body turned into a flash of light, and instantly appeared above Bao Xian Ran's head. "Pa pa 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 pa," the little girl continuously slapped Bao Xian Ran's face. "Pooh!" Seeing this scene, everyone spluttered. A little girl of 5 or 6 years old was violently torturing Bao Xian Ran. Was this a dream? Only the martial artists of Rain Country revealed proud expressions. Previously, even someone as strong as Yan Tianzhao was severely restrained by Hunyao, and in the end he had to use a powerful move to win. In the end, he was almost shattered into pieces by a single slash from Ling Han. This big and small pair was definitely a monster among monsters, and Ling Han had now become an Earth-grade alchemist, causing others to only be able to sweat. This freakishness had no limits. Bao Xian Ran was struck dumb, but immediately came back to his senses. He had been mighty and domineering for half a day, but now he was actually slapped in the face in public. How embarrassing was this? He hurriedly swung his fist at Hunyao, but Hunyao's speed was too fast. With a xiao, she appeared behind him and threw another series of attacks. Bao Xian Ran's back instantly blossomed, and blood splattered everywhere. Damn it. After failing to catch Hunyao a few times, Bao Xian Ran knew that her speed was far above his, so he hurriedly leaped to the side of the flag. After grabbing onto it, he shouted loudly, "Cold water is invincible, freeze 1,000 miles. Hong, a white-colored cold air shot out from the flag, instantly turning everything within a radius of 30 meters into ice cubes. Ling Han and Hunyao were no exception, and were both frozen. Oh! Chapter 306. What a powerful move. It instantly restrained the two of them. Everyone was originally cheering, but when they saw this scene, all of them felt despair. Bao Xian Ran was already powerful enough, but now he actually had an even more powerful spiritual tool in his hands. Who else could be a match for this flag? It was obvious that this was a spiritual tool. Once the will of martial art was awakened, the chill would be sealed in ice. Who would be able to get close? It was said that the sect guarding treasure of the Cold Water School was called the Cold Water Flag. Once it was activated, it would truly seal 1,000 kilometers in ice. It was extremely terrifying. This flag was only an imitation, so its might was far from being able to compare with the real Cold Water Flag. Was it still not enough to suppress two gushing spring-tier martial artists? Bao Xian Ran made a pay sound. A little girl actually needed him to sacrifice a command flag in order to subdue her. It was really quite embarrassing. Cheng Fei-jun, on the other hand, revealed a cold smile. He had initially wanted to rely on Luo Jifeng to finish off Ling Han, but the other party had actually not succeeded even after so many days. This caused him to silently curse Luo Jifeng as useless. But now Bao Xian Ran was actually going to help him fulfill his wish, causing him to want to run over and hug Bao Xian Ran, giving him a fierce kiss. What a good person! Ka. At this moment a change occurred. A large number of spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the layer of ice surrounding Ling Han. It could be seen that there was a ball of scarlet flames circulating around his body, and it had already melted a hole in the ice. Deviant flame Cheng Fei-jun's eyes immediately turned red. He had possessed a strange flame before, so even though he was so far away, he could feel that the strange flame was a little familiar, yet completely different. His own deviant flame had already been devoured by Ling Han's deviant flame. It was obvious that this strange flame was more powerful. It was inevitable that two strange flames had fused together. I want, Chung Fei-jun shouted in his heart. To be able to melt even the ice seal of the command flag. The power of the strange flame was truly astonishing. And the sound of ka did not come from the layer of ice on Ling Han's side, but from Hunyo's side. The little girl's mouth was wide open as she chewed continuously, crushing the ice and swallowing it at an incredible speed. In just a short while, her little head had already popped out, and the rest of her body was also rapidly liberating. Damn, what kind of foodie is this? He can even eat this kind of ice seal. Bao Xi and Ran's face twitched. These two fuck you monsters, especially Hunyo. What kind of teeth did she have? His killing intent immediately surged, and his eyes locked onto Hunyo. Now that she had not escaped, he could very easily kill her. Clang, the two swords at his waist were unsheathed, cold as water. Hey, have you forgotten that you still have me? Ling Han smiled faintly. Trash in the first layer of the gushing spring tear. I'll kill you first, then kill this little girl. Bao Xi and Ran's figure flew like the wind, charging towards Ling Han. His two swords slashed together and hong, the will of martial art circulated, and the sky was filled with ice and snow. This was not an illusion but real ice and snow. After reaching the Sea of Soul's realm, the will of martial art could be released, which could affect heaven and earth and form physical attacks. On every piece of ice and snow, there was a small glowing vein-like pattern that possessed terrifying destructive power. Bao Xi and Ran had previously underestimated Ling Han, who was able to easily escape from the ice seal of the flag. This was worthy of him killing. Ling Han drew his sword and activated the four-season sword technique. The concepts of spring, summer, autumn, and winter circulated, forming a cycle of heaven and earth. Bao Xi and Ran's attack contained the will of martial art, so it was obviously stronger, but Ling Han's power was not much weaker, and added with the fact that the four-season sword technique was a black-grade high-level martial arts technique, its power was extraordinarily great, and it very well compensated for the lack of will of martial art. Hong, hong, hong. The two of them continued to exchange blows, and for a moment it was hard to determine who had the upper hand. Quick, pinch me, am I dreaming? Why is it that a guy in the first layer of the gushing spring tier is exchanging blows with a spiritual ocean tier warrior? Someone mumbled. My eyes must be blurred, haha, how is this possible? Damn, I'm going crazy, is this really gushing spring tier? Seeing this scene, aside from the martial artists of Rain Country, the others all cried out as if they had gone mad, clutching their heads. This was too surreal. A mere martial artist in the first layer of the gushing spring tier could actually fight a spiritual ocean tier warrior head-on, and not be at a disadvantage. It was practically a dream. Although Hunyo was also in the gushing spring tier, at least she didn't fight Bao Xi and Ran head-on and won with speed, which was at least acceptable. But Ling Han definitely had the aura of the first layer of the gushing spring tier. Yet he could fight a martial artist in the fifth layer of the spiritual ocean tier head-on, practically blinding their dog eyes. A gushing spring tier could be this strong? Not only Ling Han but also Hunyo. The two of them did not fall into a disadvantage when fighting against Bao Xi and Ran, perfectly illustrating what was called a monster, what was called a freak. You guys still don't know, right? He's Ling Han, someone from Rain Country said. What? He's Grandmaster Ling, an Earth-grade alchemist? That's right. How is this possible? He was only 16 or 17 years old when he went up. I'm really going crazy. A 16 or 17-year-old youngster can not only fight a spiritual ocean tier warrior head-on, but is also an Earth-grade alchemist. I've always been called a genius, but compared to him, I look like an idiot. I'm also an idiot. We're both idiots. Everyone sighed. Originally, they felt very good about themselves. They always felt that they were at the top of the younger generation. But now they realized how ignorant and arrogant they were. On the other side, Hunyo had naturally bitten her way out of the ice seal. However, when she saw that Ling Han and Bao Xi and Ran were engaged in a fierce battle, she did not rush up to join the battle. She had a strong sensitivity towards battles, and knew that Ling Han had not fully displayed his strength yet. He could definitely win, so she naturally did not interfere. Bao Xi and Ran was astonished. He was a genuine martial artist in the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and Ling Han was a genuine martial artist in the 1st layer of the gushing spring tier. But Ling Han's battle prowess was not the slightest bit inferior to his. How could he possibly accept this? If his opponent also reached the spiritual ocean tier, then wouldn't he be killed in one move? No, I can't let such a genius live. He leaped up, intending to activate the flag and seal Ling Han in ice before killing him. You won a second time? Ling Han smirked coldly. The mysterious 3000 was ready to be used, and this powerful move only needed the time of 2 or 3 breaths to complete its preparation. Very quickly, one of Bao Xian Ran's hands had already touched the flag. He was going to pull out the flag and use it as a weapon to sweep at Ling Han. If he was swept by it, Ling Han would first be sealed in ice, and then be shattered by the tyrannical power. Then he would naturally be thoroughly dead. Hong, 4 flashes of sword light lit up at the same time. One was a real sword and the other 3 were sword chi. Then they formed a total of 400 flashes of sword light that shot towards Bao Xian Ran. Bao Xian Ran's eyes shone with extreme terror, and he hurriedly waved the flag to parry. Pu sword light scattered, shaking the heavens and earth. Bao Xian Ran staggered backwards, his body covered in wounds, many of which were deep to the bone, revealing his pale white bones. His entire person was completely unrecognizable. However, being able to withstand the mysterious 3000 and not die, he could be considered to have some ability. The flag blocked most of the attack, or else he would still have died. Phone reading was more refreshing. Chapter 307. Good dogs don't block the way, get lost. Ling Han waved his hand. Haha. Luoda laughed coldly. Youngsters nowadays were truly ignorant and fearless. Facing him, who was in the spiritual pedestal tier and on the prodigy roll, they still dared to be so arrogant. He snorted and said, I won't bicker with you for now. Speak, how did you get to know Fairy Zhu? In the end, he still couldn't let go of Zhu Xian'er's attitude towards Ling Han. What was the relationship between the two that Zhu Xian'er actually saluted Ling Han? Oh, you're talking about Xian'er. Ling Han laughed mischievously, and began to spout nonsense. He said, she's my family's child bride, so she obviously has to salute when she sees me. My Zhu'er still understands the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. Luoda was dumbfounded by his bluff, and then came to his senses. He said, nonsense. Zhu Xian'er was a proud disciple of the Half-Moon sect, so how could she be someone's child bride? TSK, you even discovered that, what a high IQ. Ling Han deliberately praised. Luoda's face darkened. This youngster actually dared to play him like a monkey. His eyes spat fire, and he said, if you don't tell the truth, don't blame me for being merciless. He released the aura of the spiritual pedestal tier, which surged forth. For a genius like him, a month's time was enough to change a lot. For example, he completely stabilized his tier, pushing his cultivation to the late stage of the 1st layer of the spiritual pedestal tier, and his strength was at least 30% stronger than when he battled Shinzhong Chang. He had unlimited room for improvement, but no matter how much he solidified his tier in the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, there would always be a limit, and the closer one was to the limit, the harder it was to improve. Thus, in the same amount of time, his strength would definitely surpass Shinzhong Chang's. If he battled Shinzhong Chang again, he had full confidence that he could win. Ling Han deliberately hugged his shoulders and said, don't scare me, I'm easily frightened. Haha, you indeed should be frightened, because you're facing Luoda on the prodigy roll, Luoda said proudly, feeling satisfied with Ling Han's fear. Ling Han continued, I'll go crazy when I'm frightened and like to beat people up. Who knows how many people were beaten by me until they knelt on the ground and called me Grandpa. You wouldn't want to call me Grandpa, right? The corner of Luoda's mouth twitched. He felt that the mouth of this young man in front of him was really sinister. He said darkly, you have such a cheap mouth, that's seeking your own death. Hey, you're scaring me again, Ling Han said with a smile. I'm not scaring you, I'll really beat you. Luoda moved. He stretched out his right hand, martial intent circulating, and Hong light burst forth. It was as if he was stepping on divine clouds, his aura mighty. Ling Han smiled faintly, and clenched his right hand into a fist. When Luoda grabbed at him, he suddenly shot out a punch. Pung! A heavy sound rang out, and the two of them retreated a few steps at the same time. Ling Han was surprised and said, I underestimated you a little, actually being able to force me to retreat. Sigh, as expected, one mustn't be too proud, this has to change. Damn! Luoda, on the other hand, was both shocked and furious. Those words should have been said by him, alright? He was in the spiritual pedestal tier, and in terms of battle prowess he should absolutely crush spiritual ocean tier warriors, but in that exchange of blows, although he didn't use his full strength, nor did he use any martial arts techniques, that was still a spiritual pedestal tier attack. Most importantly, Ling Han hadn't even reached the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Yet his battle prowess was so shocking, practically a second Shenzhong. He was truly a monster. On this year's prodigy roll, this youngster was definitely a dark horse, and would shine brilliantly. Thinking of this, Luoda's killing intent instantly rose. There was no need for such a freak to compete with him on the prodigy roll. Killing intent towards me. Ling Han shook his head and said, originally there was no enmity between us, so it's fine if I beat you up, but you actually wanted to kill me, so I could only kill you. This is called not losing out. Kill me? Luoda sneered. Even Shenzhong definitely wasn't his match now, not to mention that Shenzhong hadn't even reached the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. He unsheathed his swords, holding 2 short swords in the hands of a brawny man like him. A sense of incongruity instantly rolled over. Ling Han casually waved and xiao, a branch landed in his hand. He smiled and said, I'll use this branch to kill you. Luoda was furious. Shenzhong didn't draw his sword when he fought, and now Ling Han used a branch to say he would kill him. Both of them were looking down on him too much. He snorted angrily and said, You'll soon suffer the consequences of your own actions. You have strength, that's how confident you are. Ling Han laughed loudly, and took the initiative to attack. With a wave of his sword, xiao, 7 flashes of sword chi appeared. 7 flashes of sword chi. Luoda exclaimed, his face revealing a shocked expression. He too had only cultivated 6 flashes of sword chi. Die! Luoda brandished his 2 swords, and white threads weaved densely, forming something like a spider's web. This was the secret art he cultivated, able to turn sword chi into something like a fish net. Once retracted, a terrifying destructive power would burst forth completely. Wasn't he just lagging behind by 1 flash of sword chi? He had the advantage of a major tier, and with a spirit tool in hand it was more than enough to make up for it. Piu Ling Han's sword chi slashed onto the fish net, and instantly tore a hole in the fish net, but these sword chi were also annihilated. Could be said that they were evenly matched. However, Luoda's expression became more and more unsightly. He clearly had the advantage of a major tier, and had even used a spirit tool to activate sword chi, but even so, the quality of the sword chi of both sides was only tied. One had to know that the quality of sword chi depended on 3 factors: one's own power, comprehension of the sword path, and the medium that was used to unleash sword chi. He had an absolute advantage in terms of power and medium, yet it was still a tie. It could be seen how much worse his comprehension of the sword path was compared to Ling Han's. How about it? Ling Han asked with a smile. He waved the branch and once again sliced towards Luoda. With the infusion of origin power, this branch was also as hard as an iron sword. Arrogant and conceited, you will only bring about your own destruction. Luoda sneered, and waved his sword to meet the attack. Innumerable threads weaved densely, wanting to trap Ling Han within. Ling Han had no intention of tangling. His expression became stern, and he used Mysterious 3000. Luoda instantly felt a chill run through his entire body. The aura that Ling Han emitted now actually reminded him of Yao Huiyu. Back then, he only raised a finger, and soared intent soared to the skies, easily killing 2 elites in the 9th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier. They were 2 completely different people, but the aura they emitted was shockingly similar, which made his legs go weak. Hong 276 flashes of sword light floated, and blasted towards Luoda. Luoda gritted his teeth. Shwa, as he retreated he waved his sword, weaving a dense net of sword chi in front of him. Piu, the sword light attacked, and this large net instantly shattered with a loud bang. The speed at which he weaved was far inferior to the destructive power of the sword light. Although he lost a few dozen flashes of sword light, there were still close to 200 that blasted towards him. Luo De roared loudly, blocking with all his might. The sword light surged past, and he was wounded all over, but his life was saved. After all, these sword lights were activated by tree branches, and not only were their numbers far from reaching 800, the destructive power of the sword lights was also much weaker. Added with the fact that Luo De was in the spiritual pedestal tier after all, and had the ability to battle surpassing his own cultivation level, he finally escaped the calamity. Phone reading was more refreshing. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.